Good time zone. A happy birthday to all of those around the world. Today is a very special lore reading stream. My favorite. And I hope yours too. There's a lot of stuff to read in Endfield. We've got Nexus files, which is our core focus today. We've also, of course, have character profiles, and weapon lore, as we discovered, is a thing. I especially do want to read character profiles if I can, while there's still a very small amount of them. Because in Arknights, I'm never gonna catch up on that. I couldn't even catch up in year one. There's way more operators in year one on release. But we also got the devlog for the next update for Endfield. I think we can all agree the best part is that they're going to shorten the etch space intro cutscene. Thank goodness. That was really the only thing on, like, out of everything they talked about that was like, this is something I've thought of and I've complained every time I play Edge Space. Is the intro cutscene so long? They could have just made it for you to skip, but they made it shorter, which I guess is fine. I get what they're doing, like, aesthetically and, like, immersively, but it was really long either way. There's some other good changes, though. The notifications on the map showing you, like, how many resources are left in the, like, rare plants and stuff is awesome. It's something that I didn't realize. I never thought of myself, but I did experience every time I went to gather them, because I would always gather them and I'd open my map and check and click on it. Did I get all of them? And sometimes if there's like pylons near it, then like you have to like go through the list. So the fact that you can just see it on the map is actually going to be great. And they also addressed that they're going to, you can unlock the ability to auto-collect recycling materials, which is something I literally was thinking just the day before watching it. I was running around collecting the rare materials, not recycling materials, because I don't need to collect recycling materials because they're all upgraded and there's no point. And I liked that Lowlight called everyone out on that. And he was just like, look, you're not going to be upgrading your base. Stop collecting it. But I did have in my mind, I was like, there's going to come a point when they add more and more zones where it's just going to be untenable to go around manually collecting all these things. They're going to have to create some sort of auto-collect at some point. They're already doing it for the recycling material. Even though you don't really need to. Yeah, all the changes look good. Kind of crazy that they're going to add a new mining material when Wuling already doesn't have enough barium and stuff. We'll see. Maybe they'll add more barium. People create ziplines. Yeah, I have ziplines to all of them too. But even then, that's faster. But if you have to do that for every single zone, right? That's 5 in Valley 4. It's going to be 3 in Wuling. Like, eventually, it's just going to take forever, even with the zipline. Even if they're offset days. Like, mine aren't all on the same day, and I only collect them when they're maxed out. But eventually, it will take a very long time. My only other thought is, of course, the 2 characters. I'm actually really surprised that Razi is going to be released so soon. I thought, based on the conversation you can have with her, that it would be much later. And probably when she appeared back in the main story, but no. It's now. I will say, though, she looks really fun to play. Both of them pretty neat. But Razi looks really fun. Perhaps it's good I did not set up a physical team yet. And I think that was it. I skipped like the story part because I was like, I don't want to be spoiled. So let me launch the game. Of course, I've been playing it, and I've done like all the quests pretty much. Didn't write down anything though for lore-wise that I've come across. If you've done the Burden Beast quest, that quest was very interesting. And the whole time I was trying to figure out like what is happening. Not what I thought was happening, that's for sure. No spoilers though. Yeah, but other than that, nothing really in Endfield itself that I wrote down lore-wise, but I did write down one thing. For the OG Arknight fans out there, in episode 15, y'all, you remember Zoot? The new computer system that Closure created? Do we remember what it stands for? Because I forgot, because it's utter nonsense. I'm pretty sure she came up with the name just so she could call it Zoot, rather than coming up with the name and it happened to be Zoot. But the first two words in the acronym are Zeroth Order, which is very close to Zeroth Directive. Coincidence? Probably. I don't know how how it would be related at all in any meaningful way, but let's keep an eye on it. I think we should keep an eye on it. That's all I got. Kabam. Oh, I forgot to capture the game. Gotta switch over from Digimon. Kabam. Hey, I've got my 10. Should we pull for Yvonne?
Just a routine inspection.
Live on stream. Quick update notice. Updated resources for upcoming sign-in event. No. Yeah, what about like updating the optimization though, you know? Headhunting is what I want. I got 10 polls. I've been waiting to get to the last of these tickets to get free of on. What could possibly go wrong? I'm still missing a Lesh as a character, but I don't know if I'll ever get him, so I'm just skipping 5 stars. Sorry, dude. I'll miss your intro there. He's the only character I'm missing, not counting 6 stars, and not counting the charter 6 stars. I mean.
Excuse me, is this where we sign
Oh,
up for
it
the
made me
job?
watch it.
Nice meeting you. Name's Alesh. I like to read, and I can do angling with my eyes closed. Happy to be on board.
Well, there you go. Speak of the devil. Oh, hey, an Avawinna one. Awesome. And now I get a free urgent? Heck yeah. That was orange.
Hi, Endman.
Oh,
We
yeah.
meet again. Just call me Yvonne. It's been a very long time since I last went out. Pleasure doing business together.
And just spend 0 ore barrels. It's that easy, everyone. Another Avawinna? Awesome. I wonder if the 30 to get that dossier is worth it, though. Maybe. Can I maybe try and get a weapon, please? could go for Yvonne, but I'm gonna go for Express Delivery because I actually have one more issue to get. So thank goodness. I can actually have a good weapon on Gilberta, who's been using a half upgraded weapon because I had not bothered to get it. Arson the collection. Dick. And then I could pull for Yvonne's as well. That's something.
Originium will call.
Contemplation, computation, utterance.
I've seen that one. A lot of people use that image of her on their TV screen. That reminds me, the Rossi potential art, all of it is great. They did awesome. They did such a well job with that one.
Originium will carve a path for us.
What a
Yes, new characters.
What a beautiful.
All right, let's get into the lore. We've got a lot of archives. Nexus files, 42. Technically, we've read some of them, so I probably will skip them. But there's a lot to otherwise to read. Let me... I feel like audio is a little low. Yeah. So I think we read the later ones, or which ones did we read? I don't know. We'll find out. I think we read the wheeling ones recently. Yeah, it was all the wheeling ones. Everything else, I don't think I read. Starting off with the big one, Terra. Terra is a distant planet, home of the present civilization on Talos 2, yet the relationship between these two worlds is profoundly complex. In the distant past, the ancestors of Terran civilization originally inhabited Talos 2, later venturing to Terra, where they built a glorious civilization amidst catastrophes. 152 years ago, they crossed through the cosmic gate once more, returning from Terra to Talos 2. While most celebrated this as a paving the way, those few who knew the historical truth would whisper another term for it: the homecoming. So 152 years. Is that our official date actually? Okay. So then the stuff that happened in 42 is the 10-year gap for the Inmend. Several years later, the Cosmic Gate was destroyed during the First Agaloy War, severing all connection between Talos 2 and Terra. The surviving humanity could only reminisce about their ancestral home through fragmented records. With an average radius approximately 1.5 times, 55 times even, that of Talos 2, Terra bears planetary dimensions far exceeding its colonial counterpart. Yet, remarkably, the cyclical rhythms of day and night, along with seasonal variations, demonstrate negligible differences between the two worlds. This synchronization is widely believed to be the result of precursor technology. And I freaking called it. An unknown mechanism that somehow calibrated both planet rotations to match some lost celestial template. Earth. It is this mysterious harmony that allowed the people of Talos 2 to seamlessly adopt the fundamental calendar systems brought from Terra. Terra stands as the primordial birthplace of Originium, where the prime veins first emerge and vast crystalline clusters dominate the landscape. Its resource abundance dwarfs anything found on present-day Talos 2. From the moment humanity first crossed the Cosmic Gate, scholars have tirelessly attempted to determine the celestial relationship between Terra and Talos 2 through comparative astrometrics, searching the skies of Talos 2 for any trace of their lost homeworld. Yet to this day, such research has made no conclusive evidence to pinpoint Terra's location among the stars. It's interesting that it starts with knowledge. Like, who wrote this in universe to be like, yeah, Terran humans are from Talos 2 originally. Because then it goes to say only the few who knew the truth. Because at first it implies that maybe everyone knows that, but no, then it says only a few people know that. So was this written by one of those few people, I guess? Who wrote this? I don't know. Maybe the Endmen wrote this? But that is just lore that they are throwing out into the open. For the player, even though most people shouldn't actually know that. It was kind of a interesting big reveal in Arknights. Oranginium is an energy-rich crystalline material. It was first brought to Talos 2 by the arriving Terrans. Oranginium exists in multiple distinct forms, serving as humanity's most vital natural energy source and industrial material. With its exceptionally high energy density, it can be directly combusted to release power for immediate use or undergo various refinement processes for specialized applications. When oranginium expends its vast internal energy, it leaves no residue like ordinary combustibles. Instead, it gradually breaks down into fine particulate dust, a transformation known as oranginium activation. Though this activated state carries the risk of spreading auropathy, such dangers have been effectively contained within Talos 2's controlled environments. Well, that's not true. There's people infected. Ori positive, I guess, is the new lingo. Sorry. The energy released by oranginium can be converted through multiple pathways into thermal energy and every other known form of power. This unique property, known as oranginium adaptability, has cemented its irreplaceable role within human economic systems. One of Terra's 3 first oranginium fragments was transported to Talos 2, becoming the progenitor of all oranginium on this world. This proliferation is made possible by the mineral's natural growth properties. A key mission of the Woosters of Talos 2 involves cultivating oranginium clusters across the surface of Talos 2 to ensure the sustainable harvesting of the vital rate. It's the Woosters' fault, it's okay. Also, one of the first oranginium fragments... We don't really know anything about the other two. There's Omnom, which I would imagine is still with Khazadal. So at some point we find one of the other two and then bring it to Talos. I think is one of them supposed to be maybe in like Sargon or something? I can't remember. I feel like they've mentioned maybe something about the other two, but I don't really remember. That's interesting. No, I think I decided to look. I made up the Sargon thing. It says, yeah, no, the other two locations are currently unknown. I guess I made that up. So then we are going to find one. No, this is what I was thinking. Civilite Aternus file. The other two Oranginiums are buried deep where they belong. Their only trace is the occasional unsettling noise from the Southern Ocean's waves. Yeah, I remember that now because I remember thinking like it's in the ocean even though there's no Oranginium in the ocean. That's kind of strange, right? Okay. A relatively recent discovery revealed that Oranginium was artificially created as an information carrier. It possesses the capacity to reshape its surrounding environment and even influence the course of biological evolution. The true intentions of Oranginium's creators toward Terran civilization remain unclear. What can be stated with certainty is that separating humanity from Oranginium has become, by every measure, an impossibility. So, again, it's like, who wrote this? This one's presuming, I think, that people in general know now because of Protocol Oranginium and probably reconveners, maybe, if that's common knowledge that, yeah. Oranginium is an information database. Oranginium Arts represents humanity's methodology for channeling the energy within Oranginium through specific techniques, directing it into defined forms to achieve particular purposes. During the dawn of Terran civilization, humanity discovered their profound connection with Oranginium. They learned that in Oranginium-rich environments, they could manifest various natural phenomena through sheer will. Flames spring from palms, frost forming through breath, lightning answering their gaze. These primal techniques became the first Oranginium arts. As civilization advanced, people developed specialized methods to process Oranginium arts, or Oranginium rather, for enhanced arts. The devices created through these techniques became known as Arts Unit. Those who primarily rely on such instruments to practice Oranginium arts are designated as casters. Later discoveries reveal that every individual possesses an innate affinity for specific types of Oranginium arts, and their mastery levels. Okay, this is actually something that I was like, it seems to be the case, but nothing's ever really talked about it as far as I could tell. Enfield's talking about it. People do have a natural affinity for a specific type. A phenomenon termed Oranginium art uniqueness. This inherent nature demonstrates that human capacity for channeling these arts varies fundamentally from birth. To bridge these natural disparities and harness the benefits of Oranginium arts more efficiently, humanity developed technology to encapsulate these arts within crystalline units. Releasing them through mechanical systems, these innovations, known as encapsulated casting units, transformed Oranginium arts into standardized technology and paved the way for the explosive growth of Oranginium industry. On Talos 2, humanity continues to reap the convenience born from this revolutionary development. That's all actually new to me, which is cool. But was well assumed. Neat. Race. We did read the race thing. Actually, when it popped up. The Cosmic Gate. There it is. The Cosmic Gate represents... I guess we're calling it the Cosmic Gate nowadays. In the early trailers before the game was released, I'm pretty sure they called it Ether Gate, which is what I keep calling it. But I guess it's not called that officially anymore. Maybe because Ether has a different context for now or something. I don't know. Obviously, there's the Ether side and the Blight and everything. So maybe they wanted to change the name so we wouldn't make that connection. Because so far I've been calling it Ether Gate and trying to be like, is there a connection between the two? So maybe I've just been totally off base on that. Cosmic gates represent a classification of precursor transportation infrastructure whose optional or operational principles remain only partially understood by contemporary science. On Terra, these structures were positioned at both the northern and southern extremities of the planet's major continents. Talos 2, by contrast, possesses only one confirmed cosmic gate located at its northern polar region. When discovered by humanity, both cosmic gates on Terra were found in states of severe damage, though through immense effort, researchers managed to restore the less damaged northern structure, commonly called the Sami Cosmic Gate. Exploration revealed it led to what was initially termed subspace, though this has since been determined not to be a true ether side. Okay. After countless attempts and sacrifices following the reactivation of the precursor celestial calculation and measurement device known as the Celestial Fulcrum within Terra's home star system, he identified the Cosmic Gate's paired counterpart. This breakthrough allowed the first steps onto the soil of Talos. Oh my, wow, they're just... Okay. So the Celestial Fulcrum is a calculation and measurement device that had the, I guess, coordinates to Talos 2. And that's how we got to Talos 2. Because when you first activated it the first time, it caused some timey-wimey trouble. Then they activated it, and they're saying a subspace. Now, is that subspace a timey-wimey thing, or is that subspace just like an empty space not connected to anything? It has since been determined not to be a true ether side. So they're considering it. So the ether side is a dimension that they could technically travel to. Is that subspace the collapsal dimension? And so they're saying that's actually like something insignificantly smaller than the ether side. Like the ether side is actually some sort of expression higher than even the collapsals. But I mean, really cool to get a mention of the Celestial Fulcrum. They mention it. I can't say they talk about it a lot, but they mention it a lot in Arknights. And then, but never really explain what we've not been able to explain what it is so far. During the colonization of Talos 2, humanity exercised deliberate caution by refraining from any modifications to the planet's cosmic gate. This prudent approach meant no additional cosmic gates were discovered in the process. However, scientists across the civilization band widely maintain that other cosmic gates must exist within Talos 2's star system. Probably. This vital passage between Terra and Talos 2 remained operational for 5 years until the outbreak of the First Agaloy War, when humanity lost access to the Talos 2 Cosmic Gate. Today, the Talos 2 Cosmic Gate lies shrouded beneath the aurora of Talos 2, beyond the reach of human activity. Its current condition, along with the status of Terra on the other side, has become inaccessible to human knowledge. Yeah, let's try to call it the Cosmic Gate from now on. First Agaloy War. And we do have this picture of that guy just with the Agaloy right there. The First Agaloy War refers to the decade-long conflict spanning from the Telosian calendar year 5 to 15, fought between humanity and hostile forces primarily composed of Agaloy. Historical records predating Telosian calendar, year 142, document this conflict simply as the Agaloy War, referencing the same engagement. The war divides into two distinct phases, separated by the pivotal events of the Telosian calendar year 11. So then the second war is after 142. So that's then the 10-year gap for the Endmen. Okay. The war's initial phase was marked by a catastrophic disaster caused by the Agaloy and widespread chaos among human forces. Within the first 24 hours of the conflict, suddenly emerging anchor points allowed massive Agaloy swarms to overwhelm and obliterate humanity's earliest cities from the northern Cosmic Gate, or around the northern Cosmic Gate, Talos II's inaugural city. They seized complete control of the polar region, potentially triggering the phenomenon known as the Aurora of Talos II through means that remain unknown. The subsequent 6 years saw surviving human populations driven southward under relentless Agaloy pressure, progressively losing technological capabilities throughout their forced migration. By year 11, the current administrator had assisted the remaining human forces in reorganizing their forces, enabling effective resistance against the Agaloy incursions. This marked the transition into the war's later phase. Following a major military campaign in year 15, Agaloy activities in southern regions were finally contained. Significant events during this period include Sami, the Farenmut, joining the Agaloy War, the Wild Hunt uprising initiated by Sami's follower, and the founding of the Order of the Steel. Sami did go to Talos. That they actually, when they left, they actually did go to Talos. Did they bring the elves with them? Are the elves here? For humanity, major Agaloy disasters and combat operations concluded by the end of year 15. Consequently, some regard this year as the war's official end. Others maintain that the conflict truly reached its conclusion only after the establishment of the Civilization Band in year 17. So that's the first Faramut. Can't imagine elves like the place when they're trying to grow orange and yam. That's what I'm saying. Is we this could have been a pristine world for the elves, for Muleseeds, and then they ruined it. The Woosters, apparently, more specifically, are the ones who... So we know Sami's here, but of course there has to be others, because the Candlebearers, the Sui Regulator, are here, and they don't... Sami's not related to them, right? So there has to be a Sui here as well. But Sami's here. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. The Civilization Band. The Civilization Band designates the collective human societies operating under the framework of the Band Accord, hereinafter referred to as the Accord, adhering to its established statutes and regulations. The Civilization Band comprises various sized factions, coalitions, and organizations. Bound by Accord restrictions, it does not accept self-declared nation-states as members. Interesting. Using the Accord as its foundational framework, it promotes technical specialization and autonomy among members, sustaining humans' basic survival on Talos 2 and strives for human self-actualization on this world. That sounds nice. Individuals possessing Civilization Band recognized status who reside within territories administered by its constituent factions and organizations are designated Band residents. This group constitutes over 90% of Talos 2's total population. The three largest factions within the Civilization Band are the UWST, the General Chamber of Commerce, and the Hongshin Academy of Sciences. Under the Accord's framework, these three entities collectively hold the designation of unshakable members of the Band Accord, the U3, the Big Three, the Major Three. Of course. Enfield Industries also stands as a significant member of the Civilization Band. For convenience and to maintain neutrality, Dijon houses dedicated conference facilities where band members conduct general discussions regarding Accord amendments and other collective matters. So there are other factions. The three largest are those, the ones we know, but there are, I guess, other factions. I don't know if Seshka is part of the Civilization Band technically or not. That's really the only other society that's been mentioned, though, so it's interesting that they don't accept nation states. Honestly, good for them. Nation states, they just cause all sorts of problems. So we have the free cities, which I believe all are technically under the General Chamber of Commerce. And we have Worcester stuff, and then we have Hongshin cities as well. There's Seshka, which may or may not be considered a Civilization Band. And then there's, I guess, other smaller factions. Are they just other free city, like city-state things? Or, I don't know. The ether side. The ether side is an overarching term for describing areas where depth reading is at 1 in subterranean, surface, atmospheric, and orbital regions of Talos 2. They use depth a lot, and I don't understand what that really means. Maybe this will explain it. Given the time scale of Talos 2, the ether side is currently overlapping with real space. Flow of matter and energy between the two dimensions has been verified as a feasible possibility. In Talos 2, the barrier between the real space and ether side may sometimes rupture and to create an interspatial conduit, and in rare occasions disrupt the very space or time scale itself. Colloquially referred to as the rift, depth readings near rifts typically approach 0.5, which also means that active blight has a higher probability of occurring at these places. Cultivating oranginium or developing activated oranginium can effectively reduce depth readings and surrounding areas, thereby helping contain breaches in either side to some extent. However, this effect lacks consistent patterns. At times, oranginium activity may instead be suppressed. In regions with active ether side phenomenon, facility and machinery reliant on oranginium arts often experience significant operational interference, so they're competing with each other. The consequences of matter transitioning from reality into ether side are random and unpredictable. What remains certain is that all biological processes essential to sustaining life experience severe disruption and obstruction within these domains. Conversely, when matter emerges from the ether side into real space, it generates active blight in real space. Consequently, matter exchange experiments between real space and ether side face strict restrictions under the Band Accord, with the vast majority of related live subject testing explicitly prohibited. Unlike physical matter, energy flows unidirectionally from ether side into real space through potential energy conversion. This phenomenon occurs even in the absence of rifts, making related studies a primary focus in the field of ether side utilization. However, when this energy flow exceeds certain threshold, it frequently triggers random and uncontrollable explosions. Humanity's comprehension of ether side remains profoundly limited, particularly since distinguishing them from known subspace. The prevailing hypothesis suggests ether side constitutes a separate universe, one quietly undergoing heat death while saturated with lethal toxins. Subspace in this framework would serve as the membrane separating ether side from real space, yet such theories currently lack substantiation through mathematical models or experimental observation. Interesting. So that kind of goes back to what I said. Sorry, what I said with the cosmic gate, where they're like, the first initiation was a subspace, which is not a true ether side. So it's like, is the subspace sort of the collapsal thing, and then ether side is something even higher? This theory would support that the ether side is like an actual whole other universe, and the subspace stuff, which might include the collapsals, is actually just a dimension separating the two universes. That's a very interesting theory. Also, the fact that the dimension is perhaps undergoing, or the universe is undergoing heat death. We know that we have Orleans, right? And Orleans are like, oh, it's from a collapsed universe. That feels like that supports the theory, right? That they're fragments of that universe coming through. Now, is the ether side a universe undergoing heat death, or is it a universe that has been consumed by the Great Threat, which maybe could travel between universes? I don't know. Zeroth Directive. Confirming progress. One progress condition met. Confirming authority level. Authority level 8 authority conditions met. Awaken. Confirming progress. 2 progress conditions met. Confirming authority level. Authority level 8 authority conditions met. Awaken. Accepted. Cool. So there was conditions to initiate it. 2 of them were met. I wonder how many conditions there are, though. Hub base. The hub base serves as a crucial facility for Endfield Industries dedicated to automated industry complex research and equipment manufacture. Approximately 2 decades ago, the Woosters eliminated the giant Agalos asteron that assaulted Valley 4, though at grievous cost. Conflict left regional development paralyzed, creating an urgent need for economic revitalization. This timing coincided with Endfield Industries seeking a location with strategic accessibility and open terrain suitable for the AIC. The mutual needs led to a mutual partnership, resulting in a renewable 10-year lease agreement. Construction of the hub base commenced shortly thereafter. They're leasing the land to us? Fair enough. The hub base carries the critical mission of advancing automated AIC development. Since establishment, it has efficiently completed research and implementation of numerous projects, including industrial equipment miniaturization, flexible device deployment, protocol control systems. While Endfield Industries maintains similar facilities across Talos 2, any quantified assessment of the company's technological progress over the past 2 decades would undoubtedly rank the hub base as its foremost contributor. I hope they don't want that. I hope they don't ask for that land back one day. Dinstack. I think we read Dinstacks. We'll read it again. They're taken from Seshka, like literally the Sarkaz furnace idea. They took that idea, made Dinstacks, which utilizes blight. Yeah. During the era when Landbreakers maintained were united under Jacob, this former hero who had turned his back on the civilization band brought forth a witchcraft device known as a Dinstack from Seshka. They produce haze by absorbing blight, which is like psychotropic, I guess. And it disrupts Oranginian-based devices. Which is actually when we first realized that the ether stuff could do that. But now we know that it actually goes both ways. And Netherreath has modified them to enhance combat capabilities of Bone Crushers operating within the influence zone. But, you know, they go crazy. Yeah. Aubrey the Hero. That Aubrey Stone, I think about it. I think about it a lot. It's one of the biggest, like, lore questions I have right now. Aubrey was an educator who heroically sacrificed herself protecting students during the Algoloy assault of Valley 4 in year 75. In year 75, numerous anchor points descended upon the outskirts of Valley 4, stretching defense forces thin. A small Algoloy contingent breached their perimeter near a school facility. Aubrey successfully evacuated her students, but the entities pursued relentlessly. As the retreat reached the under-construction pass near what is now the quarry entrance, Aubrey scaled the heights to gain tactical advantage. She took the high ground. Utilizing explosives from the construction site, she triggered a calculated rock slide that halted Algoloy advance. Her action safeguarded both the quarry and her students, though she perished in the detonation that secured their escape. In her honor, the UWST designated the nearly completed quarry as Aubrey Quarry. Operations were later suspended when excavations uncovered a mysterious substance. The metallic structure, far exceeding humanity's current technological understanding, was subsequently named the Stone of... Okay, so that right there is more than I knew. It's a metallic substance that exceeds humanity's current technological understanding. So, is it... I thought it was just a literal stone. But is it not an actual stone, but like some predecessor technology? Or is it actually just a metal substance? I don't know. It's metallic. Exceeding our technological understanding seems like it's... Because if it was just a stone, you could maybe see, like, it exceeds our geological understanding, right? But it's technological understanding. Wooster Security Bureau. The Security Bureau of the Woosters serves as the internal department responsible for domestic security, external intelligence, special environmental investigations, and monitoring compliance with the Band Accord treaties. If you ask Wooster workers, when would you see Security Bureau personnel, you would receive 3 distinct answers based on generational differences. The youngest workers would say they've scarcely encountered them, only hearing about their routine visits to production bases to verify the safety of personnel and resources. Middle-aged veterans would recount how, during major expansion projects, Bureau agents always participated in on-site committees to prevent external interference with operations. The most senior workers might share a lingering rumor from earlier times. They speak of the Bureau's establishment one afternoon when the scent of blood still hung heavy in the air. Not long after that inglorious work concluded. The blood on their hands secured the Union's safety and stability to this day, while ensuring any voices contradicting the Band Accord's principles vanished. into the shadows of the back alley. Yeah, okay. Security Bureau or secret police? Cradle of Ages. The Cradle of Ages is an extraordinary oranginium marvel located deep within Origin Lodespring region. During Valley 4's initial development phase, severe energy shortages threatened the colonization effort. The administrator addressed this by planting the Great Oranginium Oak, a creation of the Oranginium arts in the Origin Lodespring region. People harvested branches and foliage from this arboreal marvel to establish the territory's first power plant and quarry, initiating a positive cycle of expansion. Approximately 2 decades ago, when the giant Algolos Asteron assaulted the valley and all countermeasures failed, the UWST made the fateful decision to detonate the Great Oak. The catastrophic energy release obliterated Asteron. Though only the root system remains, the Oak today, stripped of its ability to rapidly regenerate oranginium clusters, workers still honor their former guardian. They refer to the relic as the Cradle of the Ages, expressing gratitude for how it nurtured multiple generations in Valley 4. During the recent Valley 4 assault, a mere 3 fragments from the 100 of limbs belonging to the original Astron reconstituted through anchor point activation. This new entity, designated Triagolos, was ultimately defeated by the Administrator. Ether Test Site constitutes a specialized testing facility erected by the Woosters within Power Plateau. The Woosters established this facility specifically because the Power Plateau contains a naturally stable rift, the rift showing no observable expansion over extended periods with minimal flight risk. During Valley 4's initial planning phase, scientists proposed developing the entire plateau into an integrated EtherTech research center combining exploration, study, and application. This recommendation remained unaddressed for years. After nearly 2 decades of colonial development, the Woosters finally certified the valley environmental safety. They subsequently lifted the northern region's lockdown and constructed the Ether Test Site atop this strategically vital location. Since year 90, the UWST has conducted a series of experiments at the Ether Test Site, including dimensional stability maintenance and internal observation trials. And they brought the Stone of Aubrey. Well. The Uttuk Order. We've read that. All of the UWST will mobilize immediately to help out. Straggler's Grove and Grove Nymphs. The Straggler's Grove form a distinctive ecological landscape surrounding Wuling City. Outwardly, the Straggler's Grove appear as a monobotanical ecosystem, an unremarkable bamboo forest. This illusion initially deceived ecological Tiansha from Wuling Science Station until monitoring devices placed deep within the woods repeatedly appeared outside the grove. After thorough investigation, the Tiansha reached a definitive conclusion. It wasn't the device moving, but the grove itself. The Tiansha discovered that beneath the grove's soil, a native Telos 2 insect species had formed a symbiotic relationship with the bamboo. Okay. So it's not that the bamboo itself is a some sort of creature that can move around. There's something moving the bamboo. Okay. These insects replace the plant's tangled rhizome systems, sharing water nutrients with the bamboo growing on their backs. Then, stimulated by external factors, they burrow through the ground to relocate. During a massive blight tide, They collectively migrate to higher ground. Hongshan Academy of Science Ecological Tiansha named this species the Wuling Grove Rhizome Weaver, commonly called grove nymphs. The Stragglers Grove and their grove nymphs provide living specimens for Talos 2 flora and fauna research. To this day, the Tiansha of HAS maintain deep fascination with this remarkable symbiosis and its startling parallels to Terran ecosystems. Which actually reminds me, I'm gonna take a I did find out that the gloom pinchers are not gloom pinchers. They're called indigenous pincher beasts. So I guess they're native to Talos too. They just look like gloom pinchers. Which is interesting in and of itself, but also a bit strange. We infected them, I guess so. Unless they're gloom pinchers that they call indigenous because they are so well adapted, but I mean the slugs adapted, but they're not called indigenous, so probably not. I guess they're just native. Also, Racker Beasts are awesome. Literally just a coral from Final Fantasy, but I'm here for it. Anyway. Where were we? Tiansha Pillar. Tiansha Pillar are columnar, I think we read this, columnar Shiranite devices designed to contain blight tides, representing one of the primary research achievements from the Hongshan Academies and the Wuling Development District. Tiansha Pillars emerge from comprehensive management project in the Wuling District. While Shiranite's development brought renewed hope, the Tiansha understood that this material required an efficient delivery mechanism. Following the Northern Wuling Exclusion Zone disaster, they shifted from attempting to forcibly close the very large rift through Shiranite concentration to targeted blight tide containment. The foundational concept behind the pillars, HAS Tiansha successfully integrated orange aiming technology with Faramut studies, once again developing Wuling's very first experimental pillar designated the Marker Stone in 143. During normal operations, the Tiansha Pillar Array continuously disperses Shiranite particles into the atmosphere and water systems, preventing the very large rift from transforming additional water into liquid blight. When blight tide strikes, the environmental Shiranite particles activate, forming a barrier that disrupts the tide's momentum and reverse liquid tide phenomenon. After a decade of expansion and upgrades, the pillar network surrounding Wuling City has successfully brought blight disasters under control. Nowadays, except during quarterly tidal surges, blight tides no longer pose a significant threat to daily life within the city. Wuling City. Yeah, I think we've read all of this. But I am interested about the dates. It started as a monitoring station. So Wuling originated as a station in 132. In 142, 10 years later, attempts to contain the very large rift caused the disaster. Okay. And then they built the city upon the ruins. Very large rift. Largest documented fracture. Manifests geographically as a network of massive fissures comprising an extremely active central fracture with branching systems extending dozens of kilometers. Penetrated the scattered regions, develop deep geological structures, groundwater transformed into liquid by the fracture periodically surges to the surface. And then it caused a disaster. Wuling, the region, not the city, serves as a focal area of the Academy of Sciences. Following the First Alloy War, the massive Blight Rift in Wuling region became one of the Civilization Band's most pressing challenges. They talk a lot about the First War. I guess they're leaving the Second War for exploration. Since that, I assume that is that's what caused the administrator to go to sleep. In 132, research and delegation stationed in the region to develop Shearnite materials. We read about Shearnite. Collaborative efforts from multiple Tiansha and a Fahrenheit proxy. Okay, here's something new. It's interesting that the Wuling stuff is in alphabetical order. Is that what's happening? No, Shearnite is an X. I don't know why it's what the order is. I don't know why the Wuling stuff is in the middle. Talos 2 is a natural satellite of the gas giant named Talos. The frontier's mate from Terra reopened the Cosmic Gate and first stepped foot upon this moon 152 years ago. Really not that long at the time, actually. Talos 2 has a nitrogen-rich atmosphere, enough oxygen for life, and sufficient greenhouse gases to keep it warm. However, the alien sun and the massive gas giant that looms in the skies are constant reminders for the pioneers and the countless light years that exist between their current location and their distant homes. Fortunately, the great mountain ranges, crisscrossing river systems, and rich vegetation covered nurture a rather resilient biosphere. After the Cosmic Gate collapsed, the Terrans survived on Talos 2 for well over a century. Natural resources have been essential to supporting the livelihood of local populations. For generations, the stranded Terrans and their descendants built and expanded various outposts and towns across this world and created new footholds for civilization. According to astronomical observations, there are an undisclosed number of natural satellites besides Talos 2 orbiting around the gas giant, but only the latter is habitable. Given the unique position of Talos 2 in the star system, as well as the presence of the Cosmic Gate, we have reason to believe that this habitable environment was not a coincidence of the universe. Endfield Industries is an independent company that primarily focuses on providing pioneering industrial technologies and services. The Endfield vision is to build and expand into the frontiers of the Talos 2. Not sure why there's a D there. When the first scientific survey teams arrived at Talos 2, Rhodes Island and its other partners jointly founded Endfield Industries to serve as a think tank and forward prospector. Okay. The administrator led numerous Endfield geological survey teams and generated detailed maps for numerous frontier regions. After the link between Talos 2 and Terra was severed, the frontiers mates of the New World were forced to face the threats posed by the Agaloy and the Blight on their own. Endfield thus stepped to the forefront and continued to do so till this very day. Endfield became an integral part of the future of Talos 2 due to its novel technologies such as Protocol Orangenium teleportation, AIC controlled Orangenium distribution, and the OMV De Jong, the only orbital vehicle of Talos 2. As dangers emerged threaten the budding civilization of the New World, Enfield once again initiated its journey to expand the frontiers. I wonder what capabilities the Dijon has for spaceflight. It probably is pretty much just a satellite. And I guess there's not much reason to go else. The other moons aren't habitable, but what about other planets in the system? But also, something's going on with the gas giant and the anchors, potentially, so maybe we will have to travel there. The United Workers Syndicates of Talos 2 is the largest union of self-governing worker syndicates on Talos 2. It believes in the guiding law where quantitative change will transform into qualitative change. The Woosters is the manufacturer of most industrial and mining machinery, facilities, and tools used on the planet. It is also the undisputed leader of raw materials and resource production in the New World. The history of the UWST dates back to the Age of Terra. UWST crewmates actively participated in the frontiering of Talos 2 and were the very first organization to reach the New World. Really? The UWST provided detailed... you know what? I never thought about them as pioneers, but maybe... So, they could also be from Colombian pioneers. I think of them more as miners, so I think of Rimbiliton. And then they're syndicates, so I think of Ursus, but... plus their accents a lot of times. But yeah, maybe they have ties to Colombian pioneers. The UWST provided detailed and professional work planning as well as a brutish yet extremely powerful fleets of machinery that were essential and instrumental during the early phase expansions across Talos 2 and the rebuilding after the First Alkaloid War. The UWST of today seems hampered by its ever-growing yet inflexible organization, but they continue to cling to the UW spirit. The United Workers symbolize humanity's construction and expansion efforts. With the support of precision logistics from the Talos 2 General Chamber of Commerce and powerful new technologies provided by the Hongqian Academy of Sciences, the UWST continues to churn out one forward base after another from the gargantuan yards of their industrial mothership, Mat Gorodov. After all, the UWST is the engine that drives the expansion of the human frontier. Mat Gorodov. Interesting. I wonder what Matt has an apostrophe, so I think maybe it's like an abbreviation. I wonder if that means mother. Is it Mother Gorodov? Since it's a mothership. Like Mater Gorodov, or whatever the word for mother is in whatever Slavic language they're taking that from. Hongqian Academy of Sciences. We probably read this, but it is the largest professional integrated R&D institution on Talos 2, while the HAS continues to feed almost the entirety of the civilization band and enrich the breadbaskets of the planet. It also made rapid and tremendous progress in various fields of emerging scientists. Oh, so they're farmers. Okay. You know, there's actually... It's kind of related to that Burden Beast quest. But they talk about trying to grow, like, blight-resistant food. And it reminded me of Da Huang trying to grow oranginium. Or grow food in oranginium-tainted soil. Now, I was wondering if maybe... if any of that technology or that study could have been carried over. And then I wondered if a certain character in that could have been what's his name? I don't think so, but like it did cross my mind. I was like, what if that character is Wan Qing, who was the main Tiansha guy trying to do that research in Dawang. But probably not, but that would be cool. The foundation of the HAS was laid down by the surveillance team from the Yin dispatched to Talos II. During the few short hours after the First Agaloy War broke out, these Tiansha had the chance to return to Terra via the Cosmic Gate, but they chose to stay and join the battle. This decision resulted in them and their descendants being stranded on Talos II with other scientific surveyors and pioneers. Since these Tiansha treated themselves as representatives of the Tiansha Bureau of Hongshan Crater discovered afterwards, there's a comma there. Since these Tiansha treated themselves as representatives of the Tiansha Bureau, the Hongshan Crater discovered afterwards was bequeathed to these Tiansha to serve as a site for their new bureau. Okay, so yeah, so Yin sent them to like, and then they decided to stay. But they kept the whole idea of like they are still just part of Yin. They're still just part of the bureau. Because they weren't sent here independently. Since the crater was extremely habitable, large scientific complexes and hydroponic facilities were built in this area. The region formerly registered as the Hongshan Academy of Sciences these days before the signing of the Band Accord. To date, the HAS continues to call itself an R&D institution of Yin and governs its territories as such. It has established specialized ministries for raising livestock and crops. Occasionally, HAS would receive criticism for its extremely strict standards of admission and chronic shortage of Tiansha. However, the HAS always responded by emphasizing its compliance with the provisions of the Band Accord. Given such commitment to the quality, professionalism, and skills of its graduates, the most people of Talos II have great respect for HAS scientists. This is one I'm very much interested in. General Chamber of Commerce. Neat logo. The TGCC is the most influential corporate conglomerate of Talos II. TGCC members cover every sector of manufacturing and services ranging from leading arms manufacturers from the Age of Terra, Raytheon. Some of the weapons you can get are from Raytheon, to food catering franchises with stores along the frontier. During the First Agaloy War, the TGCC was in charge of maintaining the Talos Terra lifeline. Now that the war has ended, truck convoys stranded in the alien world continue to roar across the roads, making commercial economies, messenger-based courier services, and modern lifestyle possible on Talos 2. The First Agaloy War happened 5 years into, right? It was the year 5 to 15, right? But they talk about some of these things as they were established, right? They're like, the TGCC was in charge of maintaining the lifeline, which means that within 5 years they existed as a concept. From what? Who founded it? So I thought it was just like, well, we have a bunch of cities and they came together to make the TGCC. With hands tightly gripped around the steering wheel, the truckers cruised across the lands with headlights. Also, the fact that it's from truckers is really funny. Cruised across the lands with headlights blazing, carrying containers filled with supplies and resources to link the growing camps, villages, and towns upon the world. Though the industrial giants of Old Terra remain a dominant force, the truckers, who earned the trust and respect of the Telosians during the war, became masters of their own destiny, and thus they transformed into the conductors steering the great wheel of the TGCC. Fascinating. It's a truckers union, like, originally. To date, the upper echelons of the TGCC prefer to call themselves the shadow investors and proprietors of the Civilization Band. They love the quarterly financial reports and annual meetings with their shareholders, as well as the splendorous beauty of the great Cosmopolis. TGCC leaders believe the practice they have codified is sufficient in defining the present and future of Talos 2. Such confidence was essential for helping humanity during their darkest hour, but people often forget how addictive it could be. No mention of the free city. Maybe the free cities are free cities not because... Okay, so... history lesson for y'all. Free city was a terminology often associated as a sort of self-governing city. I guess there's multiple eras. The one I think about when I hear free city the most are the self-governing cities of the Holy Roman Empire. EU4. Yeah, sure. So when I hear free cities in Endfield, I was like, okay, they are the member states of, like, the TGCC, perhaps, right? They have, like, they're under something because they're a free city, where otherwise they are, perhaps the TGCC was more like a confederation or something, but no mention of the free cities at all. So maybe the free cities are free because they're actually not under any other faction. And so all the free cities they mention are actually not part of the TGCC. They're just their own faction. But those free cities maybe are those other factions that was mentioned as a Civilization Band. So they're not part of the big three. They're just their own city-state that's smaller. Maybe we'll get a page on free cities. That would be nice. I was hoping it would be the next one, but yeah, I was always thinking, like, yeah, so there are free cities like maybe the Holy Roman Empire where they're not even like the Holy Roman Empire, because obviously that's feudalistic and everything, but that they were underneath another sovereignty and had some level of autonomy because of that, right? Because they're free cities, but anyway. Dijon. OMV Dijon is a spacecraft in geostationary orbit above Talos 2. And the current headquarters of Enfield Industry. So geostationary orbit, of course, is they are orbiting at the same speed as the planet is rotating. So it looks like they're stationary. Humanity lost its lifeline to Terra when the Cosmic Gate collapsed and the First Agaloy War broke out. In the moment of despair against this sudden threat, human factions that include the UDFST, HAS, and TGCC jointly initiated several research projects. OMV Dijon was one of them. After a series of events, Enfield Industries became part of humanity's war effort. Many rare and non-renewable tech resources were used to construct Dijon in Telosian orbit. This was a feat of technological marvel that could never be replicated. Dijon is powered by a massive core of protocol Orangenium. The core is responsible for keeping the master protocol system operational and support various subsystems that include the teleprotocol and the AIC. I wonder what resources they use. So they're just like, yeah, you're never going to get another spaceship. Why not? Kristen could do it. It doesn't have to be a protocol Orangenium spaceship, but like... Don't forget about Kristen. Orangenium in Talos 2. In Talos 2, Orangenium remains the primary source of energy and a key material for industrial production and the arts. The hostile environment of Talos 2 motivated scientists to achieve numerous theoretical breakthroughs. In the last 150 years witnessed the release of new power generation and industrial production solutions of ever-increasing efficiency. However, Orangenium remains the basis for all of these advancements. The frontiers mates of the New World know very well that the most basic form of industrial production could not be achieved without Orangenium boilers or Orangenium arts. The frontiers mate also chose to learn from the mistakes of the past and look for new solutions. The development of the Controlled Orangenium Distribution (CORD) technology gave a degree of control over the growth of Orangenium clusters and made it possible to cultivate them in Oripathy-specific areas. Oripathy-specific areas? What? CORD greatly reduced the likelihood of catastrophes in Talos 2. Additionally, long-term Oripathy treatment, LORIT, was well received by the Telosians. Preventative Oripathy shots, PORIPs, and the therapeutic suppressants were also developed. The infected were no longer stigmatized in Telosian towns and villages now treat that treatment, and villages now that treatment became readily available. Although the situation looks hopeful, Orangenium-related issues and challenges continue to affect this new world. So, controlled distribution, CORD technology, reduced the likelihood of catastrophes. Okay, that's good to know. Although the Woosters in the science park are still researching catastrophes. But good to know. So they have actually made Orangenium a bit more safer, at the very least. Ooh, Protocol Orangenium. Protocol Orangenium, Proto-Rig, is one of the core technological marvels achieved by Enfield Industries. A network of Proto-Rig crystals was used to establish a teleprotocol network. Transferring personnel and materials between two locations across great distances is no longer science fiction, nor dependent on legacy technology such as the Cosmic Gate. Shortly after arriving at Talos 2, many scientific research teams noticed the interaction between Orangenium and ether energy, and how the said interactions affected physical phenomenon and spatial continuity. Led by the administrator, Enfield carried out extensive research onto this phenomenon, created the special Protocol Orangenium Proto-Rig, and identified a means of utilizing multiple proto-rigs to create a teleprotocol network. However, TP technology received little attention when first released, as its proto-rig systems used the extremely hazardous ether, and a single trip can only move a very limited number of personnel and resources. The breaking out of the First Agaloy War changed everything. The use of both the proto-rig and TP network was validated in the brutal fields of battle and secured humanity's survival. Again, so within the first 5 years, we had proto-oranginium already? Am I crazy? First Alkaloid War. Year 5. How did all this stuff happen within the first 5 years? I find that hard to believe. But okay. So also Protocol Oranginium uses ether. What happens if the ether side is a dying universe and all the energy disappears? I don't know. I wonder what the distance limitations are, because the Cosmic Gate can apparently go anywhere, presumably. How far can Protocol Oranginium take you? AIC is one of the key technologies of Enfield Industries and represents the successful miniaturization and modularization of industrial production machinery. A small team of professionals armed with AIC technology can quickly develop a fully functional production line. The earliest design principles of the AIC were already proposed even before the frontiersmen of Talos II departed from Terra. The traditional approach involves moving entire city plates to relocate production lines. In contrast, portable and modular processing facilities that can be deployed according to specific needs were regarded as the next stage in the advancement of Oranginium industries and production. This proposal was deemed extremely suitable for the environments of Talos II. To convert theory into reality, Enfield committed a vast amounts of R&D resources. Years of repeated testing, redesigns, and reiterations carried out at the joint Enfield Worcester hub base finally achieved a build capable of satisfying most production requirements. Currently, AIC deployment authority has been granted to the administrator. The traditional approach involved moving entire plates to relocate production lines. Interesting. Neat. Valley 4 is a frontier production region chosen by the UWST, located along the fringes of the civilization band. When the Alkaloid War finally ended, humanity made plans to push the frontier further across the world. The Woosters directed its focus at the Valley 4 due to the rich mineral wealth of the region, but with the support of Enfield Industries, the UWST began various construction projects in Valley 4. Following the completion of various quarries, mines, and production bases, the UWST began deploying research facilities to pursue energy-related R&D projects, such as the applied Oranginium technology and Oranginium cultivation. The UWST had high hopes and expectations for their Valley 4 venture. However, a disastrous accident deprived Valley 4 of its great Oranginium oak. Oops. And the UWST became more circumspect in its future endeavors. Fortunately, Enfield has recently expanded the hub base site for carrying out teleprotocol testing and production of the protocol facilities. In essence, Enfield Investments is currently keeping the Valley 4 economy afloat. Blight. Blight is a general term for describing hazardous subterranean, surface, atmospheric, and orbital phenomenon of Talos II. Such phenomena can be divided into two categories: active blight and static blight. I think maybe we read this. Static blight is the residue left over from active blight episodes. Classic cases of active blight, such as blight floods commonly seen across the surface or blight tides in bodies of water, tend to exhibit optical properties unique to the blight, often seen as fluorescent displays of strange colors. The phenomenon of active blight can inflict dissociative and/or inverse destruction of variable rates to any object it contacts or swallows. In other words, active blight can deprive matter and/or time of the physical space to manifest, or it manifests in. This destruction can either be rapid and absolute, or slow and slight. After a period of time, the shortest duration on record is 217 milliseconds, while the longest is over 149 years. Which literally means that it finished decaying like 2 years before the game. Active blight will slowly decay into static blight that resembles a layer of fluid asphalt covering the remains of the destruction wrought by active blight. Blight exerts unique effects on sentient life forms. Survivors of blight events often report auditory and visual hallucinations, sudden episodes of stress, and other mental conditions, even in the complete absence of blight-induced brain injury. Note: almost all cases of brain injury fail to survive. Having gathered more than a century's worth of supplies and data, we can now confirm active blight appears in places where depth readings hit a positive number. Probability distribution of active blight incidents is typically a bell-shaped curve against an x-axis of death readings from 0 to 1. The Agoloi refer to any hostile and animated entity comprising natural matter and a halo structure, and is created by an anchor via catalytic construction. Throughout the history of humanity's expansion across Talos 2, the Agoloi have always been our primary threat. The Agoloi War was named after the enemy fought by humanity. There are currently 4 verified modes of Agoloid behavior: construction, deconstruction, mimicry, and attacking human or human-built objects. However, since the anchor-induced Agoloi formation process resembles that of industrial production, we are uncertain if the Agoloi can be classified as a living or biological life form. The construction pattern of an Agoloid entity refers to its outward appearance, mode of movement, and means of attack. A single anchor tends to create Agoloi with only a limited number of construct patterns, though they may include occasional non- or alter pattern variants. Hence, an anchor's property is defined by the range of Agoloid construct patterns it can create. Since the first Agoloi War, humanity has encountered new construct patterns of Agoloi, giving rise to the standard Agoloid classification system. SAC is designed to help users search and identify weaknesses and best tactics for neutralizing a particular Agolos. Currently, most Agoloid threats come in the form of raids stemming from unknown sources or random anchorfalls. Nevertheless, humanity's first records described how the entirety of the northern frontier was destroyed within 24 hours after the first Agoloi War broke out. The Agolos is likely to remain as the greatest threat faced by human civilization. I wonder, though, and actually there's there's actually another document, not in the Nexus files, that gives more lore for Agolos, but where it talks about how there's the halo, which is like the actual living being, and then there is the body, which is just made of substances that they take, which is either like rock or water, as we later found out. But I wonder what, like, the Terrans go through the portal. Were there just Agoloi hanging around? Or did the Agoloi just show up one day? Was the first Agaloy War the first contact with Agaloy? Did anchors just appear out of nowhere for the first time? Like, what was that like? Yeah, because if there's Agaloy already here, then they're already here. But if Agaloy didn't exist until Terrans came here, then like the Terran present triggered something to cause Agaloys to appear, or someone did something to make Agaloys appear. Land breakers usually refer to groups of armed raiders on the fringes of society who make a living by robbery or other forms of criminal violence. The concept of land breaking is unique to Talos 2. The origins of land breakers can be traced back to the 90th year after the Terrans first arrived at Talos 2. Jacob Mason, the warlord of the wilds, named his massive bandit army the Landbreakers. The former hero of the Agaloy War occupied a large orange genuine cultivation site and founded the most dangerous raider organization in the history of Talos 2. As a warlord, Jacob, or Yukub, I don't know how they want to pronounce the J there, left a rather permanent mark upon Talosian history. Though he and his Landbreakers were completely defeated by the Civilization Band, people still use the term to describe organized groups of armed criminals that disregard the laws and order of civilization. When Yukub Mason's criminal organization was destroyed by the Civilization Band, his legacy was inherited by three major clans, namely the Bone Crushers, the Pack, and the Sand Reavers. These clans have different perspectives on their relationship with the Civilization Band. In addition to the three major clans, numerous smaller Landbreaker clans and warbands are also active throughout Talos 2. During the very first hour after the Agaloy War broke out, Endfield Industries received numerous witness reports of strange, cascading veils of light appearing in northern Talos 2. The full extent of these strange lights was only documented after the successful launch of OMV Dijon into its artificial orbit. People will call its veil of light the Aurora of Talos 2 for over 100 years afterwards. According to mainstream belief, the Aurora comprises two parts, the first being the lower portion of the Aurora that exhibits structural and energy profiles similar to those of the Terran star pod. Oh my goodness. Essentially making its lower portion the auroral barrier, though this assumption remains controversial. Fortunately, the auroral barrier only surrounds the northern polar region and several isolated pockets of Talos 2 and does not envelop the entire world like it did on Terra. The second part is the ether tide that stretches from the ceiling and origin of the auroral barrier to its outer envelope. This tide would appear as the static aura visible to the unaided eye. Ether bursts and flares occur on a regular basis within the aurora as it spreads from the north pole of Talos 2, leaving powerful active blight phenomena in its lake. For the last century or so, multiple attempts to approach the polar north with auto drones have failed. No orbital deployment systems have succeeded in breaching the auroral barrier, and no low-altitude aerial vehicles are capable of surviving the intense auroral blight. Hosts of Agaloy active in the region are extremely protective of the area surrounded by the veils of light. It is essentially impossible to traverse this area by land. The Terran aurora is a natural phenomenon only visible in northern Ursus and Sami. However, Talosians have realized that the aurora of Talos 2 is a ticking clock for humanity's existence on this moon. What do you mean it's like the star pod? That confirms it for me. never mind the fact that the picture for the first Agaloy War has like some guy standing with the Agaloy. Never mind that fact. This confirms to me that the Agaloy and everything that's happening is someone's doing specifically. We have Neferith, who has the ability to control ether stuff. Aurora has ether stuff, but also is like properties of the star pod, which means that like someone knows about the star pod, which I mean everyone knows about it nowadays, but like is trying to imitate it perhaps to like stop people from expanding. I think they don't want humanity to expand on Talos 2. I think that's it. Perhaps it's a sort of thing, right, that Calcit was afraid of, but eventually determined that she would let humanity go and do it because she trusted them and believed that they could maybe survive. But perhaps the people working on this are of the opposite mind and are actually trying to prevent humanity from leaving Terra or Talos 2 now, so as to not draw the gaze of, you know, the Great Threat or something. Of course, this all had to have happened within 5 years, which I think is way too small of a timescale. But the game has already established that a lot of stuff happened in the first 5 years. And honestly, video game timescales are always a little out of whack, in my opinion. They always have stuff happen really quickly. Yeah, I don't think they're trying to they're trying to hide anything. I think they're just trying to block people. Reconveners, and we've got the 5 reconveners. Their original appearances. Access authority level 8. So this is actually classified stuff, I guess. Optical ID not required for authority level 8 access. Bug wire scan passed. File at category 302. Endfield HR database has a list of special operators whose profiles are managed separately and locked behind an incredibly high authority level. These special operators have the right to directly communicate with senior corporate officers of Endfield Industries, and all of them are special Rhode Island liaisons working at Endfield pursuant to the framework agreement on special technical roles and cooperation between Endfield Industries and the Rhode Island Pharmaceuticals. Most of these operators usually do not work at Endfield facilities and do not carry out Endfield assignments on a regular basis. Instead, they are often involved in various roles throughout Talos 2. These special operators are also known as by the esoteric title Reconveners. The first Oranginium crystal that traversed the Cosmic Gate to arrive at Talos 2 was contaminated in a final battle of the First Agaloy War. The very fundamental nature of the info crystal was damaged, causing degradation in its properties. Despite the contamination, several intact data shards remained within the chaos of its assimilated universe. Should anyone wish to navigate the corrupted data streams within, these shards can be perceived as a never-extinguished beacon of blinding light. To achieve various objectives, both the Administrator and M3 tactically allowed Warfarin, the leader of Rhode Island at the time, to conduct emergency repairs and decontamination of the first Oranginium. For reasons unknown, the reversing nature of ether was greatly slowed near the data vein. When Warfarn deciphered this data vein, depth readings of a data shard underwent a spontaneous spike as it decrypted from the assimilated universe into real space. The first reconveners arrived at Talos 2 by accident and without the administrator's knowledge. Warfarn was also unprepared for the arrival. Every reconvener who left the Orangenian woods has been friendly and willing to work with Rose Island and the administrator. All of them also seem capable of realizing that they are a unique individual, despite sharing partial knowledge of the life experiences and an interpersonal relationship stemming from with distant memories of Terra. Such knowledge also allows reconveners to use skills and abilities wielded by their original counterparts. Warfarn later found a way to commune, with the data shards despite the concerns of others aware of their existence. She began to actively explore the Orangenian woods. Warfarn encountered data shards willing to set foot on Talos 2, and thus she designed a process to better lead them out of the woods and enter the new world. Many reconveners arrived at Talos 2 while the administrator hibernated. The reconveners began exploring the world and seeking their own destinies, and they did so with the goal of assisting the administrator in mind. Leading reconveners out of the woods is essentially an act of creation. Warfarn bore the responsibility for her actions, though she would occasionally vent out her frustrations to the infielders who knew of this project. After every stress-filled episode, she would remind everyone of how years of extensive experience taught her that everything was worth its while. Note, the years of extensive experience Warfarn claims to have are subject to change, with the figure being 500 years a century ago, 300 years half a century ago, and dropping to 20 years in most recent claims. Any Rose Islander and infielder who is willing to trust in the beacon of the woods as well as the wheels of that followed the light and emerged from the rolling chaos. I believe so too. Huh. Not quite what I thought was gonna be said. It was an accident, and it didn't happen. I mean, M3 and the administrator should know that it's possible. And you would think Warfarn would know it's possible. I guess maybe their intention wasn't to do it, though. But yeah, it seems like it happened by accident, and it seems like maybe they weren't really prepared for that being a thing that could happen. I don't know. But with Hierda and everything, and I mean M3's goal for Calcit, you'd think, I mean, how does that fit in with Calcit? The timeline there still is so confusing. Warfarn being able to do it because she's like doing the big research about the new Orangenium stuff happening, thanks to whatever her name was. Was it Molly? No. You know, the old. Maybe they weren't old actually. I'm not sure how old they were. Chloe. I got the E part, right? And the O part. Molly, Chloe. So the administrator and N3 are like, yeah, Warfarn, you can go and like repair this because you know stuff. She's pretty knowledgeable about Oranginium now at this point. But she accidentally brings someone back to life. I wonder who the first was. Oranginium Woods is an interesting term. I guess that's just their name for that pocket of the assimilated universe. But also, does that imply that all those ones were already dead? L2 was contaminated in the the first Oranginium was contaminated in the final battle of the first Agaloy War. So probably, I guess, 15 years into Talos 2. At some point, probably very quickly after that happened, Warfarn goes in to repair the shard. Something was going on with the ether. I don't know what to make of that. Something with the reconveners, I guess, triggering some ether thing? I don't know. And then accidentally triggered the first reconvener. But does that mean within the first 15 years, all of those characters are dead? We don't know when Terrans get into Talos 2. And that's the big thing, is that we're missing that time period of like when they discover the gate, when they repair it, when they get to Talos. But we know that Angelina was helping with the gate. So Angelina wouldn't have been dead then. Unless they're not dead, but if they're not dead, why is there data in Oranginium, right? Because I would assume, from what we know right now, they're not going to be stored into Oranginium until they're dead. Otherwise, it'd presumably be like incomplete information, right? If that's even how it could possibly work. Very interesting. Don't be fooled. Also, don't be fooled by Warfarn. She is definitely like 500 years old by this point. Don't be fooled. Well, that's the Nexus files. Very good stuff. I don't
Orignium will carve
know
a path for us.
profile-wise.
Prepped and ready to go. Am I looking alright from this?
How much I need to unlock for characters.
Still waiting for something?
Right. Well, the administrator has practically no profile. You remember nothing. Your memories lie in fragments, like dreams crushed to dust, disappearing at the slightest thought. Sometimes it makes you unsettled, sometimes uneasy, yet it grants you a quiet moment to breathe and think. Most of the time, however, there is no pause for doubt. You simply just trust those before you and press on. Perhaps you have tucked your past memories away, even if just for a little while, and so you remember nothing. You have lived through all of Talos 2's history, but what will you make of its future? Thank you.
Operator Prota.
Okay, so I need more trust for the characters. Is there also an upgrade limitation? I don't. It's purely trust-based. Okay. Cool. Then I can... That makes it so much easier, actually, to read all these characters' profiles. Then I'll work on that. So let's read some weapon stuff, because there's a lot of weapons to get through. I guess we'll just go down the list. We did read the jet one because of Clooney. Otherwise, I guess we'll just work our way down. Starting with the Thermite Cutter. That's the wrong button. Starting with the Thermite Cutter. North March Support Hub has, on multiple occasions, emphasized that their products were personal power tools designed for industrial and construction uses. This particular cutter proved mediocre for its intended purpose. However, it worked pretty well as a two-handed claymore. Reviewer 1. This is a review. The user manual is misleading. The product feels more like a weapon than a cutting tool. Just be careful when using it, though. This thing gets seriously hot. Reviewer 2. Think of it this way. Owning this cutter means you don't need to bring a weapon to work, right? Reviewer 3. Fantastic. So this was supposed to be a power tool for construction use? But it sucks at that. It's much better as a weapon. Fascinating, okay. White Knight Nova. I imagine... Oh, the jet one, I don't think the jet is a signature weapon. But it had really good lore. I imagine the signature weapons probably have the best lore. She began to think why she was selected for this mission. It was because of her mastery of the cryogenic arts and adaptation to the ice fields, but more importantly, it was her wildlands pathfinding skills. It was intuitive to her. She could read the stars in the night skies and use them as guiding beacons. The Order of the Steel Oath was only founded barely a year ago. She was the best candidate for a scout and someone capable of re-establishing a link between the severed civilizations. She understood her mission and set off with that hard drive. The hard drive contained all the data that the Order of Steel Oath collected over the year about the North, their enemies and their allies. The Fearless Souls once stepped out of the group and assembled in separate formation. They recited their steel-hard oaths and left civilization to head into the north, back into the devastated fields of war. There they used themselves as lures to divert Agaloid offensives. Many people treated their departure as a sign for the impending disintegration of civilization. The pessimists believed that once civilization began mobilizing people to sacrifice themselves, it would inevitably continue to check certain groups of people for the grinder. Yeah, that's fair. These self-sacrificing individuals, whom we now call the Oath Keepers, were aware of this. Hence, they must reconnect to civilizations. The information earned with their lives must become a navigational star to light the way ahead. And now this small, nascent star rested in the courier's backpack. She panted heavily with every step, through the cold air and snow. Blood coursed down her arms and dripped all over the ground. Her left arm and left leg were almost completely shattered. She felt every white, hot jolt of pain as bits of bone grated against the soft tissue. Ugh. Her wounds were inflicted by a new Agaloid that was never catalogued. The courier thought about the gates of the fort. Perhaps the abomination was created as a siege weapon. Random thoughts surged through her mind. When the Oathkeepers first marched north, they encountered uncatalogued Agaloid nearly every day. It would seem that they were beset by an interrogator more than eager to showcase his repertoire of torture devices. Agaloid designed to kill and massacre with ever-increasing efficacy started to appear throughout the battlefield. Defeating this host will be costly. It will require uncountable lives hellbent on a relentless march. Defeating the host. That's right. The courier suddenly remembered that she was still alive. She, not the Agalos, was the victor of that battle. She was the one that froze that long, heavy, and rampaging agglomeration of rock and shattered it to pieces. Its fragments glittered in the sunlight like the stars themselves. Other thoughts began to surface. The stars can guide my way. Mom and Dad taught me that they could guide travelers in the wildlands. No, we are the stars themselves. I must tell them that we stood our ground in the far north where it is colder than death. They will hear this and ignite the ember of hope. More of her blood flowed and seeped into the permafrost. But where is the star? Is it in my hands? Where am I? I cannot see it. The night looms before my eyes, but why? Why won't any of the stars glitter for me? It's because the old stars have faded away, but the new stars have yet to be born. She tried to raise her hand as high as she could. Her arts caused the ice to spurt from the blood-soaked earth beneath her, creep up her body, smother her face, course across the length of her arm, and reach skyward, its tip directed towards safety. Go higher and higher still. Be the nova that points the way. Her final thought was crystallized. All that was left was a nascent star, wholly forged of frigid ice. She would not know that after many weeks, other couriers followed her guide and reached further south. Their journey ended at the edge of the permafrost. More followed, singers of painful hanas, travelers who need to cross the fields of war. The little nova was handed to many people. In its final destination, the great vessel named De Jong used it to light the northern skies. Interesting. But it was a hard drive? Interesting. But has nothing to do with frost. When the wielder applies combustion or electrification. Interesting. Dreams of Starry Beach. There was a time when I was confused about life. The underground arenas of the asphalt roundabout is usually the first consideration of people of my size and stature. The desolation of the place shocked me. That was not the place where I'd want to spend the rest of my life in. So I went to La Fantoma, a city of opportunities, and a gathering place for the rich and famous. There are cartel joint sessions, forums, and expos, everything. 1 year passed, and I splurged all my savings on a vehicle. Some charitable merchant helped me convert it into a nomadic Rosetto, which happens to be the one right here. And I call it a boat, since it's next to the sea. My pier is where I moor my boat. I even found a few assistants back then. Made a ton of serious creds during the Obsidian Festival when the entire place was packed with tourists. But 2 years later, I found more and more people doing my thing. They drive up to the place with their truck and started serving the tourists. The Obsidian Festival made and unmade my fortunes. They built more and more fancy hotels, but I what? I think that's supposed to be the first I. I think it's supposed to be a Y. They built more and more fancy hotels, but why am I getting less and less dinners? During that year, I saw a feline who was just like me, splurged his entire fortune, and ended up with nothing. 3 years had passed. I didn't know how long I'd stay afloat. Revenue was dwindling, and that Pero made it worse. The stinking mutt always parked his food truck opposite mine, and he had the galls to come over to my place and tell my diners that I was almost finished. I felt like killing the bloody runt. I was the last one on the boat. I started packing my stuff and planned to drive my boat back home. But that was the same year when La Fantoma was hit by a tidal wave, when the disaster ended. An infield medical SAR team arrived. How this got anything to do with my store? It's got nothing to do with my store. But I strode out one night and heard the infielders admiring the star-like beauty of this place. I looked around and saw the dark beach cluttered with seashells brought ashore by the great waves. Some of them gave off soft, gentle glows. I suddenly remembered how we used to see all this when they just got the fest going and the crowd was still small. I suddenly had an idea. Mortgaged my boat on the following day and got myself some glowing shells and decorated them with various accessories. That's right, you're holding the very same thing. What happened next? Well, we got even more piers and my boat is coasting along real easy. I'll let you in on something. I'm planning to take a contract over this beach. Yes, that's right, the one beneath your feet. I'm going to grind these shells down to create the even glow coast. I even figured out the name, Dreams of the Stardust Sea. Maybe the organizers of Obsidian Festival choose my beach for their next evening event. Make sure you visit, because I'll get you a fat discount. What happened to that stinking mutt of a Pero? Oh, he's right over there. We're partners now. Why did I choose him? Because business people of La Fantoma are all about helping each other out. That's how we made this place. Huh. So La Fantoma is on a coastline. I wonder how big the ocean is. I wonder what the landmass actually looks like. I wonder if there's multiple continents. We already know that they brought over the Obsidian Festival. So the Obsidian Festival is held in La Fantoma, I guess. Always? I wonder if the Even Glow Coast actually does exist, though. That'd be cool if we ever go there and that's a thing. And then we have delivery guaranteed. We just got this. Wow, wow, wow. Just 2 days ago, when I was out scavenging, I met a weird Pero lady. She wore a weird outfit and didn't look like nobody from the Hana Beat that looked after us. She also was dragging some kind of wreck. Called it her motor, she did. Told us that the rocky crawlies broke it. She asked if I could lend my burden beast to her. I didn't want to. I asked who she was, and she told me she's a messenger. Messenger, never heard that name before. Then she explained how a long time ago, when the big Cosmos Gate was still around, messengers used the gate to bring stuff from Talos 2 to Terra, and then bring other stuff from Terra to Talos 2. She said it was in exchange for longing and attachment. But Donna told me the Cosmos Gate is gone, and so was Terra. She replied that after the Buggerlords were gone, people lost faith in each other, started wars, and built up walls around themselves, just like the little sand beasts nearby, burrowing into the sand and not coming out. He brought sand beasts burrowing into the sand and not coming out. Wars. She said people started wars on the buggers and on each other. She said, me and my dad live in a wildland village because our people wanted to avoid wars. Anyways, I didn't want to lend her my burden beast. So then she then looked into my eyes and got really mean and serious. Told me that she needs my burden beast so she could go tell the others that the war's ended. Said we lost our link to Terra, but messengers like her would try to bring everyone on Talos 2 together and build a trust instead of walls. She then said that she's the first messenger after the war, and how she got this letter of peace for a person called Endfield. But I still didn't want to lend her my burden beast. She gave me this gentle smile, and plus a floating metal ball floating close to her. She said it's mighty expensive, worth almost as much as her letter. Told me I could keep the floating ball and as deposit until she comes back with my burden beast. Yeah, floating stuff is usually expensive. So I agreed and lent her my burden beast, told her my name, and she said, and showed her the way to the village. When I woke up in the morning, someone told me that my burden beast is hitched outside the village. There was a package in the bag and a letter with the name on it. Turned out to be the lady messenger. She wrote the letter that I gets to keep that deposit as a token of her gratitude. She also thanked me and my burden beast for helping her get close to her destination. She said the age of messengers is coming. I think she was happy when she wrote that. The package contained this calm radio with some instructions. Now everyone in this village can use this radio and call other messengers nearby. So who should I write to? And where should I send my letter? I never left my village. Maybe I should write to that lady messenger. Is this one actually about Gilberta? Did she like restart the concept of messengers on the planet? She just loves being a messenger. If it is, though, what war are they talking about? Is it the first Agaloy war? Is it? Because she's like, she needs to send. She needs the burning beast to go tell others that the war is over. So she's like traveling around bringing news that like the war is over, right? But they also explain, she's like, He replied that the Buggerloids were gone, and then people lost faith in each other and started wars and built walls around themselves. So I guess maybe not the first Agaloy War, but it's wars that people fought after the first Agaloy War, maybe? Which also then means if this is Gilberta, then she was reconvened during the first Agaloy War. Or I guess like immediately after the first Agaloy War. Because I would have to, because the final battle is when it got corrupted. So I guess that would make sense. Maybe she was the first one. Maybe she was the first one. And then reconvened. Immediately was like, I'm gonna be a messenger. I love being a messenger. And then set off to tell people at some point that the wars were over. Interesting. Hold on a second. I forgot I had set up. Okay, that's fine. Never mind. Anyway, Grand Vision. It looks like a well. He rested his elbow upon the railings of the observation deck and allowed his gaze to trail after the 12th empty bottle sailing through the air before plummeting into the faraway sea. He then saw the majestic ring, the facility where he works. This was his first time gazing upon it from such a great height. What is its purpose? Some kind of underwater shelter? I think I heard mention it's for firing or launching something. He started making wild guesses, but quickly restrained his surging thoughts. The existence of this facility had nothing to do with him. If he had taken the selection trials just a few months ago, before he lost an eye, his entire team in the battlefield, he might have been on top secret work being carried out inside the place. But now he no longer felt the pride nor drive to contributing to the future of humanity. Those virtues had been buried beneath his comrades' bones. He is now just a common deck scrubber. Who's my employer again, he thought as he looked down at his work ID. Endfield Industries? Whatever. They're all the same. Endfield, UWST, GGCC, AHAS. This place has filled with all sorts of people. The top brass of every faction gathered at this locale, far removed from major threats of war, to work on some mega project again. Probably end up failing. The front lines are collapsing one after another. Habitable areas are being squeezed out of existence. Can they really find something to turn the tide of defeat? Stop thinking about it. It's just gonna get a headache. If he was to live out his days without a care, he should take it to the extremes. But he still heard them talk behind his back. The only child of a proud family of soldiers, the rising young star who gave in to self-loathing, who willingly took up a deck scrubber's job so he could be as far away as he could from the battlefields. Ah, yes, his ear still caught wind of that every now and then. He was surprised how these words could still hurt him. That was why he came to this place, to release himself. Of course, that release inevitably evolved into self-pity and many bottles of coal. Bottles of coal? You can drink it too? I thought you ate it. I don't even know. Who knows anymore? The 13th bottle flew and fell into the sea. So why did he feel so terrible? Was there something that he could not put to rest? Medals? He threw them away. His preferred weapon? He couldn't even remember where he buried it. Oh yes, there is indeed something else. He took off his eye patch, then scooped out the thing that never warmed from his pocket. The prosthetic eye of gold and origo crust stared at him from his palm. When the story passed down through the generations, the eye was fashioned out of gold, rewarded by the emperors. His ancestors stood the battlefields and the battle of the 4 emperors and witnessed the fall of Gaul. Wow. It did not matter if they became powerful magnates or explorers of Terra. The eye was always handed down to the next in line. He, the disgraced failure, was the last inheritor. The glory of his house shone through a pupil hemmed by golden filigree, and it cast a spine-chilling glare into his soul. He clenched his fist and closed his fingers around the heirloom of an unbroken line, then cast it into the sea without hesitation. Welp. There goes that history. There, it's done, all clean and quiet. The coal within him swirled and made him burp. That ring in the far distance looked more and more like a well. He remembered the wishing well he saw in a small village he chanced upon during his grand tour of Terra. People threw coins of gold and silver into the well and prayed for their wishes to come true. The price of the item cast into the well would determine the scope of the wish manifested. Bunch of fools. If that were true, what about the thing he just threw into that well? What wish could it hope to accomplish? The eye was a prized treasure that witnessed the fall of a great nation, transforming civilizations, carnage, rebirth, destruction, and perseverance. Would the well mold it into something else? Forget it. I'd rather sleep it off. He raised his hand and launched the 14th bottle into the air and followed its trail until it was held in stasis in midair. The wishing well had granted its response. A complete silence was followed by the emergence of an enormous crystal formation. The heavens were rent asunder and revealed a path of oranginium. Countless figures of grand majesty stood amongst the clouds by the end of this long road. A massive cosmic gate appeared behind them. Why, your majesties, why? Is it because I have cast away your gift? Because I have abandoned my history, my lineage, and all my glories? His fallen comrades sprouted from the oranginium road. They stretched out their withered limbs and shattered weapons and did all they could to make him stay. So he took out a spear. Every carcass he pierced revealed a great many words. He bowed his head to read those weighty words, and revealed them to be names. He saw the names of his father, his grandfather, the Pasha, the Pope, the Inquisitor, the frontiersmate, the miner. He followed the river of the dead and walked past the historical figures. Finally, the emperors left their names upon the tip of the spear. And with that he raised the broken spear up high and made a great thrust against the massive gates before deafening roars awoke him. The great ring in the distance opened up the sea. That piercing spear, the monumental construct forged by every faction with every moment of despair, every sliver of hope, and every weeping wound was thrust into the heavens above. And on that date was Dijon successfully launched. Fun. Why'd you have to censor the date, though? Come on. Is it that much of a secret? So Dijon, they launched from an ocean-based launch site. Which is a not uncommon science fiction sort of, not even science fiction technically, but science fiction sort of thing where it's like, well, the rocket's so big that it's better to put it in the ocean than like on land sort of thing. I wonder who this guy was. What family was he, I wonder? Probably not, like, I'm famous in terms of Terra, but probably not famous enough for us to know, but... I like that the lore so far for these things are like, the weapons are, they're related, but not always in like a direct way, right? So the Grand Vision is like a sword made of like oranginium. That's the signature weapon for the administrator. So it's about the Dejong, which is also a giant oranginium crystal, technically, right? The Dreams of the Starry Beach is Ardelia's signature weapon, and I guess is maybe like a piece of obsidian, maybe. And so it relates to the Obsidian Festival, which is what the story was about, the guy trying to make a business in La Fantoma. Wild Wanderer. I met them in the wilderness. They were not friendly at first. One of their aldertones inspected my wounds and permitted me to stay until I became well enough to move on my own. The others, however, refused to converse with me. Perhaps this was the price that I had to pay for wearing a uniform of TGCC origin. Their way of life left quite an impression on me. These people developed a unique culture centered around the idea of simplicity. No, restraint would be a better word. They might not have the best technology, but they made the most out of every material. These people crafted tools with a unique minimalist aesthetic, a style of beauty molded by the harsh and unforgiving wildlands of this untamed world. I told them I was a crafter, and I gave them a chance to take part in their work. And it gave me a chance to take part in their work. Observing their craftsmanship up close gave me a rather shocking revelation. Their weapons were fashioned using far less materials and simpler processes, but overall performance was only marginally less than our TGCC counterparts. This discovery made me realize that our designs actually have plenty of room for improvement. I left the circuit after spending 3 whole years with them, and then they gave me honors befitting of their own aldertones. Deep down, I learned far more from the people of the circuit than I taught them in return. I do want to see more circuit stuff. I guess you could consider them a faction of the Civilization Band. They're nomads though, so they're not like a city or anything. OBJ Arts Identifier. I once had extreme confidence for my gifts in wielding the applicable Oranginium arts, and my gifts were rare indeed. Even when taking every caster of Talos 2 into account, I believe all my art instructors I had since my childhood could attest to this fact, and there were 23 of them. While my peers struggled to light a candle with an arts unit, I was debating the possibility of having an unaided infected cast the arts for extended periods of time and at higher throughputs. It was a time when I first heard about the legendary administrator. Back then, at least, I once believed that I might be capable of achieving the same. My performances in the Oranginium Arts Proficiency Assessment for the last 20 years, my GPA, and the courses on Oranginium Arts Theory, studying the Academy, and the accolades I received for my graduation thesis titled The Gap Between Particle Applications and Theory, a Discourse on the Future of Oranginium Arts, only served to strengthen my belief as I spent every year perfecting my arts. There is a significant possibility that I am a genius. And I held on to that belief until I joined the company that I have dreamed about since my childhood, Endfield Industries. I could hardly describe my feelings when I underwent the routine integrated physical examinations for new employees and received my report. My Oranginium Arts simulation was rated as standard. How was it possible? They must have made a mistake. At that moment, I felt as though I was struck by the devious arts of a Jal. Shout out to the Jal. and it struck so hard I could fight off the mental fog. When I came to my senses, I went straight to the Human Resources Division and delivered a severe protest. I demanded a re-examination and declared my absolute refusal to accept such a brusque conclusion made without sufficient evidence. The HR division seemed to be expecting my applications. I was entreated by Martin Marvin Mallon in a most sincere manner. We understand your request and have arranged 2 additional Orange Art Assimilation testing sessions after 3 working days. A total of 2 operators will also be assigned to take the test with you and serve as control references. 3 days later, as per the instructions, I cut out a perfect square out of a ferric slab before me with my arts unit. I turned around, saw the Savra, who should be at the opposing testing station. He looked at me curiously. Is this the way to do it? I thought I had to cut 16 squares with a single move. This is my confession. I thought I heard him wrongly and subconsciously gazed at the result of his test, and I saw 16 perfect squares neatly laid out on the floor of the training cabin. The clock stopped at exactly 1 minute and 1 second. What was I doing at that time? Oh, I just finished calibrating my arts unit and thought the perfect approach was to start cutting the slab. There was no question that I had lost the first trial. It was a complete disaster, but negativity had yet to catch up to me. I simply prepared for the second session. I comforted myself with this thought: Enfield's a big place, and they have a legend like the Administrator. A fellow infielder of such competence should be something to expect. Soon, an accident, or the stroke of fate, dawned upon me. While I was checking the arts unit, an A-gear youth wearing an elite operator's uniform poked his head out of the training cabin. He simply wagged his tail and undid the safeties of over 50 standard arts units. They orbited him like an obedient school of Finns as he left the place and mumbled these words: "What a hassle, shouldn't have come here in the first place." This was when I first experienced despair from seeing an unattainable gap that could never be closed. I learned that even if I mastered every form of Orangenium arts to my knowledge, the tracelessness and effortless elegance of his arts wielding were qualities I could never achieve. Never, not in my entire life. I suddenly felt that all my achievements in the arts for the last 20 years only gave me better knowledge of what I witnessed at that particular moment in my life. I am not the prodigy. That title belongs to someone else. I chose to forfeit the second testing session. After the test, I also gave up joining the Specialist Tech Division. Thankfully, the Arsenal took a good look at my CV and asked if I was interested in doing some weapon engineering. I agreed. They said that the classic arts identifier would be returning for the arts unit obstacle challenge this year. I received 5 of those, but I would not mind getting a 6th. Good for him. OBG. I wonder what OBJ stands for. Do we have any knowledge of that? Because there's like a whole weapon series that uses it. I guess maybe it's an infield weapon specifically. We have OMV, so OBJ's maybe Orangenium something. Nothing here implies what the B or the J could be. Oh well. Cohesive traction. The city had many families. No one knew which of these families was the most friendly and harmonious, but everybody agreed that the Webbers were the antithesis of peace. Rarely has there been a family with so many children and so many feuds. Only one Weber should be present in an area of 64 square clicks. If more Webbers were present, the unfortunate land would soon witness violence and bloodshed. Just last month, the eldest of the Weber children received a letter on the battlefield. After butchering the enemy who stood before him, he found his officer and applied for 1 month of leave and embarked on a journey home. He crossed the woodlands and found his younger brother, who was about to bury the axe into the elder Weber's head when the latter suddenly read the contents of the letter. The young Weber tossed his axe, packed a few things, and joined his brother on a long journey. Their sister was already waiting on a boat moored at the riverbank. The Weber boys were wary of the massive oar she wielded. Last time, they were careless and woke up 3 days later. Time was running out, but they still had a lengthy journey ahead. The 3 siblings faced a vast desert. When they were lost amongst the dunes of ever-changing shapes, a convoy arrived on time. The driver of the lead vehicle lowered the window and revealed a face they all despised and hated beyond all measure, Uncle Weber, who lived miles away but never failed to show up and gloat at the family whenever they met difficulties. "Hop on, brats," the Uncle Weber offered a ride to the young Webers, and ignored how they rolled their eyes. The other vehicles in the convoy honked and rushed them along. The frustrated cacophony undoubtedly hid a great number of Webers as well. How many Webers are there? The convoy started off at once and left ephemeral trails upon the sands. They drove all through the night and day before finally arriving at the final stop. The lake was at a peak water level, swollen by storm that threw great waves crashing at its banks. Thankfully, the richest of their aunts owed a strong, majestic ship capable of accommodating every single Weber. Aunt Weber, the captain, proudly strolled the rolling decks as the ship tore through the storm and rode the waves, giving snorts of disdain to every Weber who failed to keep their stomach juices in, and grunts of contempt to the discolored Webers who held on to the railings for dear life. The tempest accompanied them throughout the journey, and all the Webers arrived at their homeland safely. Everyone was shocked to see the Webers charging across the main venue for the biggest hospital in town. There were so many of them that they covered the entire length of the road. And the Webers finally gathered at the ward and surrounded by a baby girl still in her wraps. The infant weakly opened her eyes and looked at everyone present before closing them forever, untouched and untainted by the mundane affairs of the mortal world. "Thank you for agreeing to see her one last time," the youngest of the Weber girls said softly as she clothed the child, whose body grew colder and colder. Well, that took a turn. So they all hate each other, but they all still came together. For family. How do the Webers keep growing as a family if they all hate each other? That's the real question. Do you join, if you marry into the Weber family, do you automatically start hating other Webers as well? How does that work? We have finishing call. The Black Knights' imposing stature and awesome technique let her defeat other contenders without Oranginium arts. Wow. I did not expect the Black Knight to be mentioned here. Her attacks might look like powerful swings performed without much thought, but every strike was aimed at her opponent's weakness. The Black Knight always had an advantage in a frontal confrontation due to her superior footwork and balance. Several had claimed that this great sword was not the Black Knight's favored weapon. There are tales of her defeating over 1,000 enemies with her dual sword breakers at Yerig. It's true. That happened. Those tales would prove my hypothesis. The Blood Knight The Blood Knight was even stronger and his tactics were widely studied. Unlike the Black Knight who preferred besting her opponents with a single deadly strike, the Blood Knight wielded Oranginium arts to his advantage and manipulated his opponents to attack at a place and time that he desired. He was literally a one-man army who dominated the field. As for the battle records of the Radiant Knight, words alone won't suffice. There was no question about her impeccable techniques, but everyone knew she owed her success not to the battle itself. Anyone armed with such levels of conviction could step onto the field with different weapons and tactics and become like the Radiant Knight herself. Of course, such levels of faith and belief would be impossible to learn. This knight, wait, he's a knight, right? When and where did they make this recording? No, I'm not sure. I can't recall this one at all. The video is choppy, and it showed all sorts of enemies, but the knight's is strong. I don't know why I have a feeling that his true battlefield should be in the oceans. Just look behind him. His stance and pose made my heart swell with excitement. When compared to his arts, his raw power and fury was a symphony of the waves. Yes, the song. What I have been doing all this time. The truth, the link so dear, so bright. I'm thirsty, so thirsty. I need... That's it? That's where it ended? I know it's incomplete, but he suddenly passed out when he reached this line. Is this draft really okay? The man did pass out halfway through his work, you know. You're overthinking things. This is our mission. Put his hand back on the table and let's get out of here. What? Okay, first of all. Is this one about his true battlefield is the ocean? Is that the last night of Kajimersh? Is that? I would assume so. Second of all, what is even happening in this? I don't even know. Are they making some sort of like movie or documentary or something? I don't know. Also, this weapon has to do with Kajimersh? Question mark. A weapon equipped by Enfield operators. A weapon by Misc Industries. Weapon with a limited production run. This was originally the final design of a collaborative project pursued by arms companies and the Knight's major expert, Cromwell. I guess there's a Kajimersh industry that is making weapons. Interesting. You think they're making weapons based after different knights? And then we have OBJ Heavy Burden. Again, what does OBJ stand for? Maybe one day we'll find out. Oranginium Battle... Battle something. Whatever a J could stand for, I don't know. We're leaving. From what Director Chen said, it's just the usual R&R aboard De Jong while we wait for future assignments. Everyone wanted to take this opportunity and send you back to Yersh, but Kun told us something you said to him, how you preferred a warmer place away from the foot of a snowy mountain. So we submitted an application to the UWST. They're more than happy to do something for you. They left you a good spot at this public cemetery. According to the Workers United, you're a true hero of Valley 4. Don't worry. We've sorted out the movie ticket stubs too. We're going to mail it to that baker friend as per your instructions. He really cares about you. Kept asking us if Theater 12 started working at a different place. That made me realize that your backup plan is being a script supervisor at New Rankwood. Yeah, this is indeed the type of work you'd like. Just look at you. Got it all figured out. 10 movies lined up at the booth. Free crispy drumsticks at the canteen for the peeps. Flashy new weapon at the arsenal engineer. But why did you just, charge straight at them without thinking? Sheesh. All the refugees you saved are doing well. We also delivered those supplies for you. That mighty explosion you pulled off blew that cluster of buggerloids to bits. The UW crewmates took care of the nest. Or the rest. I just want to say that your sacrifice really paid off. Rest well, friend. The rest of us will visit every time we pass this place. Oh, and we left the greatsword for you. I ran the paperwork and moved it from emergency requisition to a proper asset under your name. It's the deal that you always wanted, right? Never knew how you came upon it from that pile of supplies. Maybe that's what people call fate. And it really stuck around in the explosion. Might as well let it stick around some more with you. Gotta say, you're made for each other. Tough as nails, and you took it all. I'll let you keep each other company. Keeps the loneliness out, you see. Nice. Ancient canal. Not everyone's heart was mine to touch, but I could read my own like a book. In this very instant, my heart is filled with nothing but fear. Our science station, the observatory we constructed to defeat the boundless, very large rift, has been engulfed by the blight, and despair did likewise to my mind. Will the Sheeranite succeed? Is the entirety of our efforts completely meaningless? The ether made us realize how insignificant we are. It will devour Wuling and everything in existence. How are we supposed to oppose this astronomical phenomenon? A canal must be constructed. Although the rescue work of victims from the disaster site is top priority right now, this canal is of utmost necessity. It will prevent the aquifers from contamination by the blight tide seeping into the soil. But this is ultimately futile. It only delays the inevitable death of everyone or everything upon this land. My hands are covered in blisters. Though I'm just a worker at the production floor with zero knowledge on construction, I have been assigned to a building crew. They must fight off the disaster until reinforcements arrive from our HQ. I got a cut in my hand. I unearthed a broken dagger from the canal's construction site. How long has it been buried here? A century? Italos, look. Take a good look at your bleeding hand. To hell with glory and sacrifice. Why am I still alive? Why do I want to be alive? Why should I be alive at all? Why? Blighted hell. I'll off myself tomorrow. I chose the night at the construction site. Good place, perfect weather, with pouring rain that soaks everything in the friggin' mud. Losers like us deserve to die and get buried in the mud. The rain-swollen torrents tore through the last unfinished section of the canal. I spotted a metallic sheen in the freshly exposed mud. I don't know why I walked over to the glint and scooped out the mud with my bare hands. I unearthed the thing buried beneath. A rusty valve. That was it. Ours was an ad hoc rush job with neither infrastructure map, data, nor verification. And as chance would have it, we completed the canal that our predecessors failed to finish. My view of the thoroughly rusted valve transformed at once. It is my father's will, my mother's portrait, the paper flowers offered to my grandparents' grave. And me, I saw my reflection in the muddy water. That was it. Someone always wanted to survive, and someone always survived. The heavens and earth are not without boundaries. Fear itself could disintegrate completely. With that, I stopped thinking about death. I but extend the facet of survival and persistence, the never-ending cycle that has endured for since time immemorial. I do like the ordinary stories we get, although there's not much to say about them. Rational farewell. I guess we're both trapped here, you and me. Now we got a Raytheon floor worker with their brand new production line and a stoic and well-grizzled UWST. Ugh. What exactly is your job, bro? Weapons. I install Orangenium primer safety mechanisms on our guns. Great. That means we got an expert expert weaponsmith. Could say gunsmith though. Too bad the blight blocked the roads and got us both trapped here. I'm gonna tell every Raytheonite about this once we get our sorry butts out of here. By the way, you're really good at bandages. I would never be able to fix my fractured finger if I were here alone. You should have picked up first aid knowledge. This is the wildlands, mate. It's my first time working out here. Frontier fresh, you know? Never expected them to assign me to a field job, but I guess they never got enough Raytheonites to work out here. We drew lots and, yeah, got myself the short end of the stick and ended up with the convoy escort job. Hey, I might not like it, but I stashed away 6 months worth of pay before leaving home. Bought myself 3 years worth of general insurance and emergency first aid coverage plans for the band periphery with a wad of cash this thick. Look, this thick, and kabam! Actual accident happens, and none of them work. Wasted all my cold hard cash on this blightery. Hey, why do you look so lost and confused? Sorry, I just remembered a few things. I haven't seen printed creds for a while. Oh, that's right, I just remembered. The UW don't use no cold hards. They pay you in what? Weekly ration tickets? Is that true? We actually do get paychecks and T-creds, but our sites tend to be in less populated regions of the frontier, so we got nowhere to spend them. You might treat this job as a frontier run, but it's more like a southward trip towards a safe zone for me. Our bases are also better stocked in these parts, so I guess I didn't really have to spend any money either way. That sounds boring, I guess. Oh, dang it. Nearly forgot about this. We get fat bonuses if we get good people into Raytheon. So, interested in becoming a Raytheonite? Wow. What did you just throw at me? Wait, this is a Raytheon pass? You gotta be joking. You're ex-Raytheonite? Yeah, X-Ray. They chipped my pass when I left several years ago. I got to keep this as a souvenir. So, why did you... Because innovation makes future became innovation makes the big bucks. I just can't stand seeing new tech being used solely for profit. Look, Raytheon is a good company, makes no mistake about that. Maybe it's just me who's weird. Anyways, we need to stick together to survive the frontiers. Things would be better if there are more Raytheonites out here, right? You have a point, but wait, I'm hearing a ringing noise. It's my comm device. My fellow crewmate must have noticed something wrong with my positioning signals. An SAR team should be on their way. We should try and get closer to the area's border. Wow, you're a true survivalist. So, you're really not thinking about rejoining Raytheon? They may have bonuses for returning X-rays. Being a re-ray might be... Get it moving already, sheesh. An X-ray and a re-ray. There's no nation states, but there's something to be said a bit concerning about the corporate states that seem to exist instead. OBJ Velocitus. I raised my hand cannon 3 times in my life. When I raised a hand cannon for the first time, I thought I had the entire world in my hands. I had a fight with my old man. I didn't want to study in a Worcester med school for a cushy future. I hid in my bed and secretly binged on videos with my handy term, things that my father never allowed me to watch. Iberian Inquisitors and invincible Lateran gun knights with weapons raised. I emulated the figures in the handy term and fumbled with the old man's big iron. I imagined the arts coursing through my fingers into the orangenium circuitry within the weapon, propelling the non-existent etched ammo to create a non-existent hole in the wall. When I raised a hand cannon for the second time, I thought it was my last. I departed from Valley 4 to perform a field medical rescue operation at a nearby village. While the operation was underway, we were set upon by a vicious band of landbreakers. We could only panic at the time. None of us expected to see LBs so close to Valley 4. I activated the orangenium columns and called Tried calling the Valley Fort for assistance. As the LB's howling got louder and louder, I tweaked the frequency knobs faster and faster, but all I got was static and noise. I raised my hand cannon and squeezed the trigger blindly. Then I led the children and made for the Valley Fort at the distant horizon as fast as our legs could carry us. I could not remember how long we ran upon the wildlands, but the day grew late. The pursuing LBs were long gone, but I dared not lead the children back to their village. Who knows, there could be a trap waiting for us. I had already taken a few hits from crossbow bolts, and my vision began to blur and swim. I could no longer make up the shape of the fort, and I could no longer trudge onwards as I struggled to recall what I saw during the ride to this place. I collapsed, exhausted, and my body instinctively curled up. The children were trying to shake me awake. I told myself to keep my eyes open, but my eyelids won the struggle. When I woke up the following day, I found myself lying in a dust hare camp far from Valley 4. It was only then when I knew that we took off in the wrong direction. And it was the crying of the children that brought the dust hare surgeon to my aid. The experience taught me how powerless I was, and I would be better off pursuing a career in general practice and inherit the family clinic. I made up my mind to submit my resignation once my body recovered. When I raised my hand cannon for the third time, it was over a medal. I saw my schooling days in a dream. My father, stern-faced as usual, listened to my med school instructor's complaints about my oddness and peculiarities. The old man later went to my dorms. He did not confiscate my handy term, but sat down and watched the videos with me. It was at that time when I saw him take out a medal that he never wore from a chest pocket. I dreamed some more. It felt as though I arrived upon the land shown in the videos. I ran across the plains with a hand cannon. That medal turned into a bullet and fired into the sky. That is when I awoke. My entire strength seemed to have been sapped away by this dream. I was sweating profusely upon the sickbed. I heard cries of surprise and shock and terror. This time it wasn't just the LBs. There were anchors as well. I took out the hand cannon from under my pillow. My father gifted it to me when I learned I joined Endfield Industries. It was this very moment that I knew I would keep raising this hand cannon for the 4th, 5th, or even 6th time. Freedom to proselytize. The cleric named Sessionite thus entered the wildlands. When he arrived at the abandoned village, the creek had long dried up and the soil was cracked. And the Forte, suffering hunger and thirst, asked him for salvation. You need knowledge that will lead you to where the water flows and thick grass grows. I shall teach you how to read these lands. And so his hand gleamed with the light of the Oranginian network, and he imparted upon them knowledge that came from those from afar. After 7 days and 7 nights, the enlightened Fortes learned how to dig a water well in the barrens, and thus the water flowed and the grasses grew forevermore. The cleric named Resurgenite thus entered the wildlands, and he arrived at an abandoned village. The creek had long dried up and the soil was cracked, and the Fortes, suffering hunger and thirst, asked him for salvation. You need strength to retake the watering hole that you once called yours. I shall grant you weapons to protect your kin. And then he removed the guns he carried on his back, and together with the relics of the old, he gave them to the Fortes he met. After 7 days and 7 nights, the armed Fortes drove the landbreakers that occupied the upper flows of the river and chased them out of these lands, and thus the water flowed and the grasses grew forevermore. The cleric named Veritarite thus entered the wild lands, and he arrived at an abandoned village. The creek had long dried up and the soil was cracked, and the Fortes, suffering hunger and thirst, asked him for salvation. You must converge your faith as one and pray for a rain of abundance. I shall be with you, and lead you to wait for the destined season of rain. And then he codified the law and the commandments, and taught them unity and forbearance. And he patiently encouraged every Forta whose despair was great in their hearts, and gave them peace and hope. And after 7 days and 7 nights, a torrent of life-giving rain fell for the persevering Fortas, and thus the water flowed, and the grasses grew forevermore. If you are the third thirsty Forta, which of these clerics' teachings will you accept? The parable of the 3 clerics engraved at one corner of the Sancta Melania Cathedralis Tranquillae. Is this... what faction is this? Cabal of Tranquility. An arts unit designed by Misc Industries for the Cabal of Tranquility. Every step of the product design, verification, manufacturing, returning it has been carried out under the guidance of a Cabal cleric. Yes, it seems like the Cabal of Tranquility, we talked about them before, they're like some kind of techno-religious cult, but they have their ties to the Laterano, it seems like. So they do still worship the law, which I guess makes sense because of what the law was. I mean, for them to be techno-religious now. I guess that all makes sense. Aspirant. It was early autumn, and already the snow were falling in the north of Talos too. Beneath the heavy gray skies, snowflakes fell as bone-chilling winds howled across the plains. Unchallenged by the wilting grass as it burrowed into an old, leaky observation post, there the winds were briefly checked by a campfire before they stopped by a young man's cheek. Achoo! The sneezing did not slow the young Pero, speed and stuffing 2 slabs of bread and meat stew into his mouth. He even wanted to lick the plate if he could. Oh, thanks a lot for this. You're welcome. The cold drove us to this campfire. We're friends now. The grinning Forta chief sat by the campfire and gazed at him. He looked around 30 or so. So, friend, why venture to the north alone? I'm trying to visit the masters of the fighting arts and complete my catalog of warriors under the heavens. Oh, that's just a book with the backstories of every warrior. We have this legendary master named Chen Chicha of Hong Shen, but nobody knew where she went. I thought I could visit the north and find out, but as luck would have it, the Agaloy was the one that chased me all the way here. Damn it, I bet we'd be getting another anchor fall soon enough. Forte helped himself to the ladle of the stew. I know this one. Orphaned at a young age and got admitted to the Tunjin Hall, where she became the worst disciple of the cohort. But after doing her Zhanghu tour, she became a legendary amongst those of her generation, and a lauded master of swordmancy. Even got herself a happy family. Husband's quite the master in leapmancy. They also have a daughter named Chen Yu. I think. Leapmancy? You can't just throw mancy onto any word. That's so detailed. Are you a swordmancer as well? I learned a few swordmancy moves from the wildlands from a songseer. So, what do you think about Master Chen Chi? Ah, great and imposing mountain. Yeah, she's the dream of every swordmancer. They say her swordmancy is imbued with a state of unrestrained freedom. It's more than being faster than a comet. Those who witnessed her swords singing across the skies could feel the heavens and earth itself. It felt as though everything in this world, from the tallest peaks to the deepest seas, has achieved oneness with her blade. Her sword itself is light and elegant. It's like a speck of dust in a gust of wind. It strikes with the force contained within every existence. I can hardly imagine anything that could withstand her blade, not even the Algolos. Anchor? Indeed, her sword can probably cleave the largest anchors in two. I'm saying we have an anchor fall. The young Pero instantly leapt up without raising his head, jumped over the campfire and bounded for the outside. You can't outrun an anchor. Well, at least I won't be crushed by it. I'll take my luck outrunning this algaloid spawn. That'd be quite the challenge. We lost the race years ago. Forte strolled out casually and slowly. When I was a lad, I herded stock beasts for a song seeker. We were surrounded by the algaloid when a swordmaster drew her iron blade and unleashed a crimson cleave that pulverized the rock buggers. A master elite master then grabbed me in his arms and helped me escape the encirclement. I spent years traveling and paid more than a few visits to Hongshan, but my search has found nothing. I have nothing but respect for this couple. Forte then drew a sword and swords from his hip scabbards. I may not achieve their level of mastery, but such is my goal. I spent years honing my swordmancy and managed to replicate a fraction of that overwhelming cleave I witnessed. This is one auspicious day. May you witness my achievement. The anchor smote the ground and turned their former shelter into a pile of rubble. What followed was a flurry of glittering blades. Maybe we should ask Chen where her mom is. Also, is this the same guy who wrote about, who's talking to Swordmasters? My catalog of words under the heavens. Because there is actually a book about that, like, has a similar thing. I don't know what it was called, though. But you can find it in Wuling. Weapons expert, I think, maybe. Wait. Yeah, I think it was weapons expert. No. Unless I was thinking about that. I thought there was one that was like specifically about... Maybe it was that. I don't know. OBJ Edge of Lightness. Perhaps this is the last one. We got through a lot of them. Let me get this straight. Your team lost to Z7 in the combat drill because you didn't graduate from military school and Little Dodge wasn't your instructor? Enough excuses, kid. I trained tons of raw recruits like you, and I totally lost count of the number of losers who hamstring themselves by boo-hooing about their sad backstories. Look at your face. Do you think I'm gonna give you a motivational story of how missing a degree or diploma isn't that important? Wrong. I'm your friggin' instructor, not your pathetic shrink. I'm not gonna make you feel good about your academic failures. Since we mentioned degrees, then I gotta say, it's actually pretty important. But if you're missing one, there are solutions to go about it. I became an instructor after all. Guess how I did it? Wrong again. I, Sato Kogo, never read a proper book in my life. In fact, I only learned how to write in Victorian thanks to courses offered aboard Dijon. When I was your age, I was just a bummed out debt collector, Neo Tsukushi. Okay, that's our first Higashi city, okay. Neo Tsukushi. What? Don't you know what a debt collector is? Ugh, forget it. I'll put it simply, hired muscle. That was my job. So did that for about 3 or 4 years. I was either bruising people or getting bruised myself. As long as someone paid the creds, it didn't really matter to me. And I was in my 20s, and I thought I'd be doing that for the rest of my life. I never expected something big to happen. Oh yes, I stepped on a few toes. The wrong tail, actually. Not some cartel security firm, but an actual big shot Oyabun. Ugh. This is exactly why I kept telling you to pay attention to the surroundings when you fight. I learned it the very hard way, so at least take this from me. Weather was great that day. I besieged the gambling den with the 24 bros in the organization. There were just around 8 people on the other side, and I thought it would be a cakewalk. Those dudes fought like beasts in heat. Half the lads were down in a heartbeat. I was out of ideas, but I couldn't just leave my bros behind, so I came up with a clever idea of using the revolving doors. How'd I do it? Well, I simply undid the security latch and got it spinning. Anyways, I got 2 enemies down in an instant. Some of the bros started helping, and we sent the rest of them packing. There is one thing I miscalculated. The revolving door was connected to one upstairs. Now that wouldn't sound like a thing, but my boss suddenly got the bright idea of enjoying the spectacle. Suffice to say, his tail got caught. Boss man was also a lupo. And you know what they do when someone messes with their tail. Why were the doors connected? That doesn't make any sense. What happened next? Gee. Do I have to spell it out? I escaped to the frontiers before they gave me cement shoes. I slogged 2 years in trucking, 4 in janitorial work, and 3 in bounty hunting. My liver was dying on me, and luck finally turned. When I arrived at Endfield, some old client wrote to me a recommendation. Thank the big gas for that. Alright, your turn. Tell me about your plans on beating Z7 next time. So the Yakuza still exist. They made it to Talos. How many more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 7. No, I already counted those 2. Over 20 more weapons to read, I guess. So I guess we kind of got like half of them done. Pretty good. Pretty good, I'll take it. Will in there. We'll probably do another one of these at some point for the rest of the weapons. And for character profiles, if I can start building up the trust on them. Knowing that it's totally trust-based definitely makes things easier. Although, there are some characters I just don't have the like the gifts for. Like, I guess maybe I need to upgrade maybe Wu Ling to unlock them or something. I don't know. Because I've upgraded all of Valley 4 stuff, and the gifts I can buy aren't good enough. Some of the characters just don't like them. So I don't know what's going on there. Like Chen. I don't have any gifts she likes. Somehow. But I can put people into the control center at least. I'll start doing that. Trust also builds way faster in this game than Arknights, let me tell you. It's way quicker to do it. But yeah, that's gonna be all for now. Still sorting out the schedule for the rest of the week. But other than that, thank you all for watching. And until we meet again, may the sands of time treat you well.